the fuck?
Alrighty, everybody. Welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live. How is everybody doing today? Who's ready to watch the presidential Snapchat filters in full action? What a day. So this week has been a parade of, I watched all the reaction episodes. It's really good. Looking forward to more. Awesome. Make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. $5 a month or whatever it is. $6 a month, something like that. Join the Patreon because there is an editor and I want to give them a paycheck. And not enough of you have subscribed. Just found out my city is staging an ordinance to criminalize food sharing in public parks. Yeah. Oh, did I forgot to do the Discord thing? Look at that. Sorry about that, chat. Here, let me throw that in there. This is another day of Mike was right. The markets yesterday were spiking. Bondi firing imminent. It's so funny when they try to fire people like Pam Bondi who just do exactly what Trump wants. Like, imagine having someone who does exactly what you want in every way, and you're like, get a brick wall limiter set up for your audio. You get 10 Patreon subs. I feel like my audio is completely even. Why did you block this user? Probably because they were annoying. You get I have a 0 strike policy. If you do anything annoying, you get blocked. But I'll unblock them just because you asked me to. It might have got an accidental. It might have been an accidental shot. I might have misclicked. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. Bernie is endorsing Claire. Yeah, I saw that. Okay. What is it a right about? Oh my God. I saw the funniest tweet of all time this morning. And it was Third Way officially saying they would rather lose than work with the left. If I could get someone to get all my tweets of how they would rather lose than work with the left together, and they just said it out loud. They just say it. They just admit it. They just admit it. Chat, please. I come from the future. If you know and can see this, please help me. Sorry, that's me. I think Hassan really needs to understand that the Bulwark guys hate his guts. And they're trying to call him an anti-Semite. In the aftermath of the 2024 election, a few points of agreement emerged among Democrats about where the party had gone wrong. This isn't the article, by the way. The article is... actually, it is this one. You're right. Fuck, you're right. It is this one. The strat only works when there's a Dem incumbent because you can claim a Lib already won, so you don't need the left. Okay, so the reason why we're going to win is the strategy of... hey, you got to stop Trump. Vote for the moderate. Moderates appeal to centrists. That was a theory, right? And it was a reasonable theory. Like, people could listen to that and think that intuitively tracks. Of course, you, as a right winger, would vote for someone who is closer to them ideologically. It makes sense. So by going to the right, you're actually attracting people from your opposition. And every person you attract from your opposition is actually worth 2 votes. Because every vote that you flip is actually the same as getting 2 new votes. So flipping people is very valuable. And so moving to the right, that makes sense, right? That's a reasonable argument. Does everybody agree that that argument on its face makes logical sense? Like, if you want to win over voters from the right, moving to the right on policy will attract some of the people ideologically, right? That makes sense. Like, I know it's wrong, but as a hypothesis, it's not crazy. Right? It's not an insane hypothesis. He's gonna lose so badly. But here's the thing about it, is it is a hypothesis, which means it is testable. And we've tested it multiple times. And what we found is moving to the right does not guarantee victory over the right. Moving to the right doesn't win many votes over from the right. In fact, moving to the right actually hurts you because it makes more left-wing drop-off voters not vote, lowers your enthusiasm among your base, which results in overall lower turnout, and you don't win over that many people that are moderates because they don't actually exist. That's not how people vote. People are not like voting purely because of ideological alignment. How do we know? We test the ideology of voters frequently, And many people who vote Republican do not agree with Republicans on almost any policy. So people are not voting according to ideological alignment alone. Okay, so just moving more to the right ends up costing you more than you end up gaining. Okay, it doesn't make you electable. In fact, it's unelectable. And so that is a fact that we have tested, we have looked at, we have measured. Now, here's another set of facts that is not so good for the left, which is thermostatic effects can oftentimes outweigh ideological moves. And it's a complicated interplay between different factors, right? Like the Democrats have one advantage. The Republicans' policies are really bad and very unpopular. So when Republicans enact Republican policies and the effects are felt by everyone, they hate that shit and they want to throw them out. And so here's the problem that we have. In order for us to get ourselves out of this flip-flopping spiral between black cats and white cats, we're the mice. If we want to actually elect someone who represents our interests and not the fat cats, we need to actually capture what are the sides of the coin. Or, and this is my preference, start our own party but in order for us to start our own party, it cannot be led by someone like me. I know that people want me to start my own party, but it can't be. Unfortunately, I don't have the motion to start a political party, okay? To on my own, right? Like, that's not how it works. Same thing with Hassan, okay? We don't have the motion to do it on our own. Do you think Trump 2 won because the first-time voters didn't know the history of Trump and saw COVID issues as Biden's fault? I think Trump won because Trump 2 won because Kamala Harris abandoned her base. The problem is that Kamala Harris is a dumb politician, and she's a machine politician. She's bad at this. So the only way for her to have, landed on a good set of policies would be for, she would have to go through a primary. That's why primaries are valuable, chat, because they force you to address the party as it actually is, or else you lose. Kamala Harris never had to address the parties as they actually are. And so she was trapped by DC fucking logic. And she went with what DC lobbyists and DC consultants wanted her to do, which resulted in a party platform without a base. And therefore she lost. So, and then of course there was the Gaza genocide, which a lot of people vote based on moral reasoning. And the Gaza genocide broke that moral reasoning. Because how can you claim to be the good guys if you're supporting a genocide? It doesn't make sense. Kamala Harris is trying to run in 2028. It's obvious. Very funny. Very fucking funny. I hope she runs because, again, who does she take away from? Gavin Newsom. Who does she take money away from? Gavin Newsom. Who does she take support from? Gavin Newsom. All it does is harm the centrists. Okay, so what was I saying? All right, okay. I was doing a very long-winded discussion about the logics of regular people. And in the climate of 2016, mainstream media had a hold over the base. I think I should get a poll for this. Trust in media polling history. I wish I had a... Okay, here it is. Gallup did it. Thank you, God. Okay, so if you look at trust in media and you look at 2016, what you'll see, do you see how there's like 44% great fair amount? See how the trust in media has been declining? But in 2016, this era, the primary, it was like largely people still trusted it. Do you see what's happened now in 2025? Trusted media is collapsing. And the reason why it's finally collapsing is because trusted media among Democrat-leaning voters is finally declining. For Democrats, the narrowest of majorities now express trust in the media, which is a repeat of the low previously seen in 2016. So what we're seeing, if you look at Democrats, is trust in the media is cratering. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity. By the way, this trust in the media 2016 thing, that was right before the election, which was bad for us, right? That was people getting ready to vote for Trump. But now we have a structural decline well before the presidential election, and there's no reason to think this is going to reverse. If anything, it's going to go down further. That's why buying CBS and making it pro-Trump actually paradoxically helps us. Buying CNN, it helps us. Because why? Democratic base voters stop watching mainstream media, which is what the Democratic Party establishment controls. And so we are setting up a structural opportunity. Look at the independents, same deal. Structural opportunity. Republicans have hated the media for a long time. Republicans have hated the media for a very long time. So now they just completely ignore it. That's Trump's advantage. It was 2016 when Republican hate of the media officially became a majority position in their party. But now, which is why the so-called populist right, even though it's faux populist, was able to win. Because media, mass media, is how the establishment manufactures consent. So the Republicans threw that off first, which is why they ended up with Trump. Now, Democrats are finally doing the same. And as Democratic trust in media declines, that's an advantage for us because we control the alternative media. Democrats, DSL, PSL, reformists, Trotskyists, all slightly different, but none of them actually want to fight to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat. The problem is you don't read. And if you do read, you don't comprehend. I cannot make history occur. You can't make history occur. I know, it's very frustrating. All we could do is operate within what Gramsci said, war of position. All we could do is build those counter-hegemonic beliefs. That's what I'm trying to do. You think we're ready for revolution, but you don't even have a group that you want to revolutionize with. Stupid. Why is Brent and oil futures matching? It's absolutely incredible is the answer to that. So oil has got up to 100. Oh, wait, oil in America is more expensive than it is in Europe now? Wait, what the fuck? I don't know what's happening, man. Don't ask me to explain it. Don't ask me to explain this shit. Nothing makes sense. Tesla is falling off a cliff, and the price of the stock is still trading at hundreds of times earnings. What do you want me to say, dude? What the fuck do you want me to say? It doesn't make sense. It does make sense. If you understand that markets have nothing to do with the underlying, they're all about sentiment, then you get it. HSB's bag wards of Tesla stock collapse. It's expected. I mean, yes, I expect this as well. Company hit a 4-year sales low in the United States earlier this year with no signs of imminent recovering. That's coming to bear on a share price, which is down 20% year to date. I mean, is that even a lot? I mean, it's still massively overvalued. It's only down like 3.8% on the news that its shit dropped 14%. Gold and silver are massively overvalued. You know, like this is just all this is silly. Anything above $50 for silver is overpriced, right? Like it is what I've said for. I mean, I'm not saying to sell silver. I'm just saying that the history of it is ridiculous. Anyway, let me just finish my point about the trust in the media. Anyway, long story short, trust in media. Our opportunity is now. The establishment has lost control. That's why they started this chorus shit. Who is the chorus singing for? Who is the chorus singing for? Chorus is singing for Democratic Party donor directed. That's why they're called the chorus. Because they're paid to sing a tune that somebody else picks. And it's not going to work. You used the wrong than in your title. What did I say? Oh, I said then go left, and it's than go left. You're right. Then is time. Then is comparison. They named it a little too on the nose, almost like a J.K. Rowling naming convention. If you're gonna call the queer community Delulu, you're a bigoted piece of hog shit. It's so funny because the Soviet Union decriminalized homosexual behavior, and we're mega feminist. It's so, like I think the MAGA communist people are the funniest because it's like Mao and Lenin were like big feminists. Fucking idiots. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. So now we're gonna have to settle into the reality of the Donald Trump speech. And let me tell you something, chat. The Donald Trump speech may be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, but it's short enough that we could just watch the entire thing because it's that dumb. I had it on another monitor as I was like dicking around on my computer, and I gotta tell you, I have to tell you, I didn't feel like I received any information whatsoever from the speech. I'm gonna try to lock in.
President Trump has said the US core strategic objectives in the war in Iran are nearing completion. In a televised address about the conflict, Mr. Trump... Okay,
how long was the actual speech? I may not even watch it, to be honest with you. I'm like reconsidering. 18 minutes? So fucking... Fixing the iron prices. Oh, thank you. I'm typoing like crazy. I'm tired today. Can we Brandonize the speech and watch it at 1.5 speed? Yes. Yes, we can. But I'll do 1.25. 1.5 is kind of fast.
Thank you very much. My fellow Americans, good evening. Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of...
Before we go, did you guys see the Artemis launch? That seems like more fun than this. So remember how Elon Musk kept making fun of Artemis? You got, and he was like, I'm going to be on Mars with Starship. I'm going to be on the moon. Starship can't even get into orbit. They were making fun of Artemis, and he can't even get into orbit with Starship. I would love to get a video of him talking because it's so funny. By the way, Starship is way behind schedule. When Elon Musk won the contract, it's way behind schedule. All right, let's talk about the Artemis shit because they're sending astronauts to the moon right now.
It is the work of ages. It's the work of countless minds, countless decisions. And as we come down to inside 30 seconds, let's just listen to the launch of Artemis 2.
And they just switched it.
NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis 2 mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate beacon. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on 4 main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour.
Yeah, Artemis is mad.
Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, constantly on.
Can I just say that NASA is very anti-Semitic? Fat Guy has pointed that out. The $5 billion that it cost NASA to build this could have gone to Israel. And if you think about that, NASA is anti-Semitic.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on constantly on.
Have you the same?
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis 2 mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour.
What I want to know is why Americans think we should spend any of our tax dollars on our country. Give all the money to Israel.
1 minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2 minute 9 second mark.
Next time someone accuses me of being anti-Semitic, you can just show them that clip.
Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
So we're about to see the separation of...
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state, ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight.
We are gathering ourselves here in the studio for what was very close to an on-time launch and a very impressive one. 3 miles away is the building where we're sitting. And the sound and then the wave of power, the disturbance just in the atmosphere hit us, and it felt like an earthquake. Everything was rattling, the windows, the ceilings. The power was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's really something. You know, I missed that from the shuttle program because the shuttle was very similar. Same type boosters, same type engines, but this rocket has even more power. Definitely more of an earthquake, no question.
I guess I'm so used to scrubbed this, weather that, didn't work out, and this is the first one I've been live for, and I guess I'm a good luck charm.
Because it's not SpaceX, bitch.
It went off pretty well.
Good job.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for the future.
Good job.
Wasn't prepared for that. Wow. It's amazing. So we've seen some technical milestones happen that are very encouraging. Bill, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, just a few moments ago, you could see some little sparkles coming away from the light of those engines. That was these panels on the service module just below the Orion capsule that are designed to come away in flight, and they did, right on schedule. No, this is just a drive to orbit now. It's these main engines are going to push this all the way to its initial orbit, and then the Orion and its upper stage will separate to fly on their own. But this is going like clockwork so far. On the telemetry, you can see this is an infrared camera view, but the telemetry.
You think AOC changed her mind because people on Twitter yelled at her, or does that shit not matter? I think that AOC did not change her mind because people were psychotic at her on Twitter. I think that AOC changed her positions because the regular human beings in this country have changed their minds. And there is a continuing, ongoing relationship that is constructive at the local level. I think that yelling about supporting Israel being bad is good, but I do think being like very unhinged towards people is not a way of getting them to move in your direction. I think that being a schizophrenic freak, it puts you off. I sent you some educational material. Okay,
you can see
that's
up
nice,
in the right-hand corner shows you the velocity and the altitude.
We're talking
right
about
now.
something else.
And as you can see, that velocity number really climbing. They are.
In her endorsement event, she literally said people being unhinged online is the opposite of helpful. Yeah, I know, exactly. That's what I said. Like, one of the problems with the online left, and listen, I am in many ways a beneficiary of this, but if you notice something, I'm only unhinged towards our enemies. And I'm very careful about who I declare an enemy. Did you notice that? I'm not unhinged toward allies, even if I disagree with them. I go, I disagree with you on that. And I'm normal about it. I don't go unhinged. And I think that what happens is the reason why people get unhinged is they feel frustrated. They feel like they're not having any impact. And so they turn up the temperature and they get more and more performative and more strident and more inconsolable and more confrontational. But it's not real confrontation. It's on the internet confrontation. And you don't, like, if I were in a room with somebody and I started yelling at them at the top of my lungs, red-faced, spitting, that would make me look insane. But it's much easier to do it in text on your phone. It's much easier to do it on Twitter. And people kind of get trapped in that kind of behavior. I'm not saying it's never appropriate. I'm saying that you have to learn the distinction between our enemies, our allies, and one of us. And I think of AOC as somebody who exists in the space between one of us and an ally. So I give her much more grace than I give someone like Elizabeth Warren, who is at most an erstwhile ally, a temporary strategic ally maybe on a specific issue from time to time. Whereas with AOC, my problem with her is that I feel like she's personally has a bad mental model of how politics works. And her comms team is not very good. And which is weird to say because she's so popular. I think AOC is extremely popular, but she could be even more popular than she is now if she slightly refined the way that she talks. And I think one of the mistakes she makes is she accepts the frames of the right too much. And people have kind of detected that as evidence you're of the right. Whenever you kind of entertain the right's frame, people on the internet interpret that as you being right wing. And so it's I don't know why she isn't more sophisticated on that point. AOC's biggest liability for presidential run is herself. No, that's just you being brain rotted. That's unfortunately you being brain rotted by the capitalist algorithms. And it's a very frustrating thing to look at because obviously I am a success in part because of these algorithms. which actually makes me more aware because I think about them more than you do. And AOC attacks are amplified by the algorithms intentionally. And a lot of you lack the mental discipline and critical thinking skills and media literacy to interrogate those things. And I don't say that to be arrogant. I say that as a statement of fact. Also, you're not very good at electoral politics. So you underestimate the value of certain things, and you overestimate the social context that you exist in, which is a fatal flaw called being in a bubble. So it's one of those things where sounds arrogant, sounds truthful, sounds accurate, sounds accurate description. Donald Trump just fired Pam Bondi. Oh, that's so funny. Read her tweet from yesterday. Yes, that's a perfect example of people being stupid and not understanding what she's saying at all. Like, it's one of those things where it's so embarrassing to see people I like not know how to read or not know what the fuck they're talking about that it makes me like, I don't engage with things whenever somebody's really embarrassing themselves, but I like them, I tend to just let it go and not draw attention to it unless they start doubling and tripling down. That's the one thing I'll do. I'll let you be cringe and stupid one time, but if you keep doubling and tripling down on it, I will correct you. Adepanada, the reason why he hates me is he lied and said that AOC was in favor of the Bolivian coup. And I told him that's not true. She condemned the coup the same day it happened. And that's when he started spiraling on me because he lied about AOC. And I said, no, that's not true. Why are you lying? This is what actually happened. Then he blocked me and started going schizophrenic. So he was trying to spread misinformation. He doubled down. I corrected him. And then he went schizophrenic. A lot of baby brains don't understand light criticism versus damnation because constructive criticism is not how you go viral online. That's why Gen Z's brains are so cooked, is because the only thing being puritanical gets you viral online. Making over-the-top statements makes you go viral online. Why? Because it attracts strong responses. Strong responses correlates with more engagement. More engagement means more time on platform. More time on platform equals more money for the capitalists. So they encourage that. Thoughtful, constructive criticism does not go viral. And it's not that complicated. Once you understand that, it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't mean never be harsh. I am harsh all the time, but I'm harsh against my enemies. And I'm better at picking them than most chatters are, unfortunately. For most people, social media is an extension of the real world. For a lot of Gen Z, the real world is an extension of the online world. It's the source of tons of problems. I mean, that's obviously true as well. So is Adepanada an op? Oh, absolutely, 100%. Adepanada is basically a trot. If you don't know the history of the Soviet Union, I'll just explain it to you very quickly. Trotsky believed that labor unions, trade unions should be destroyed. That was the main fight between Trotsky and the rest of the Bolsheviks. He believed in militarization and war communism. He believed that they should run the government like the military and apply it to everything. And we should destroy trade unions. So every Trotskyist is anti-trade union. And if you go and look at like Trotskyist websites right now, they're actively attacking trade unions right now as we speak. And it just so happens that all those Trotsky websites also spend all their time attacking AOC. Now I'm heavily simplifying it for you, but that is the facts. All right. And if you know anything about Lenin, you know that he had no problem occasionally going against trade unions when the exigencies of the revolution took place. So when they say permanent revolution, what they really mean is no independent worker movement. They want everything to be subsumed to the party. What is the reasoning for being against trade unions? Because the unions will work in their own interests rather than the interests of the greater working class. And so in order for the working class to revolutionize, they need to control everything, including temporary exploitation of workers in order to achieve specific ends. Again, it's not that important. Like, I don't need to get into it because, again, Trotskyism is completely irrelevant. However, it does have relevance in the online space that we're talking in because the ways of approaching certain types of formations on the left that are super hypercritical come from a form of thought that was very common 100 years ago. And a lot of people read theory and they adopt the struggles and the conflicts of those fights from 100 years ago. And they don't look at theory as being contextualized within a specific political, economic, and other situation, they just accept the things and the conflicts and the identity fights without even really understanding them or even really knowing the history at all. So anyway, it's not that important. I don't bring it up because I don't even want to waste my fucking time, and it's boring, quite frankly. Trotsky refused to tip waiters and they spilled hot. Yeah, he was a fucking scumbag.
Accelerating, because think about it, Tony. As you consume propellant, you're losing weight, but the engines have the same thrust, so you go faster and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm. And the G-forces on the crew are building up during this time frame as well. And actually, the engines, because they're throttleable, will actually throttle down.
So I think some quite bad explanations here. I suggest people look into it more themselves. Wow, man, you really got me. You really proved me wrong with that. Do your own research, guys. Hopefully you find a Trotskyist website. Here, I'll show you what I mean. World Socialist website is a Trotskyist website. Mass opposition from XR auto parts workers to sell out. Workers strike auto parts manufacturer. Like the Trotskyists are constantly attacking UAW as an example. GM hits factory zero workers with another layoff as UAW maintains silence over escalating job cuts. All they do, this is a Trotskyist website. It's very embarrassing. Anyway, let's keep going. I want to finish the space. Then we'll go talk about Trump.
The altitude to orbit to reduce the G-forces on the crew, and they'll hold around for less than 5.
So they're now at 74 miles from Earth. Mm-hmm. So that is over the line. We can say they're in space now, or do you count it at 100 plus?
No, that 62 miles is
62,
typically
right?
where we, yes, yeah.
And Reed Weissman just said a minute ago they can see the moon rise.
The DSA Trots hate WSWS as well, so chat knows. Wow, Trots splitting? I can't believe it.
I could see a beautiful moonrise out the window. Amazing. They're high enough to see it, even though it's below our horizon.
That's an amazing detail. It's an amazing detail. You know, I remember in 1969 when CBS covered the moon launch. The day after, this was in a documentary recently, the Flat Earth Society of the UK reconsidered their position. I wonder if any minds have been turned towards science this morning, Bill. I thought about that as you talk about the moon over the horizon, but viewable from where they are. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, another milestone they've reached is what they call 3-engine press. In other words, even if one of their main engines failed at this point, they can still conduct a normal mission by just burning the other 3 engines a little longer. That's another major milestone.
And they are going to low Earth orbit.
Well, actually, it's an elliptical orbit.
It's an elliptical orbit.
It's low on one side, but it's a little bit high on the other. It's up around 1,300 miles. Is the apogee, they call it, the high point of the orbit. And once they get around to that point, they're going to fire their engines to raise.
Why does he say shit? It's so funny how he says, like, he tries to say one thing and it's just wrong. So anyway, yes, elliptical orbit. The reason why they're going to an elliptical orbit, this is very interesting. In orbital mechanics, you get something called a gravity assist. When you are close to a major massive body, you get more change in velocity by doing burns close to a major massive body. So they're firing as hard as they can on the trajectory toward the moon until they no longer have the proper angle. Basically, they don't want to start burning radial instead of so does that make sense? So they'll cut off the burn and then go around the Earth again in an elliptical orbit until they get close again, right? And then they'll do another burn. And so that they can maximize the efficiency of the burn.
Ease the low point to get it a little bit more. Right now, the low point's about 70.
You are going to make sense to people who are not familiar. I know. It's just weird to me that people never get curious about things and then learn them, you know? And then move on and learn something else. Maybe I'm weird like that.
Miles, so they're definitely going to fire an engine to raise that up here shortly.
Yeah. But now that they're up there, their time is now being tracked moment to moment. Mike, we were talking earlier, you say there's a phenomenon of chasing the red line, right? You've got your schedule mapped out with such precision, and you make sure moment to moment you're keeping up with it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, particularly on a mission like this where it's such a short duration, right? We're only talking 10 days. And so, as you can imagine, the controllers, the planners, they want to take advantage of every moment of this mission. And so they're going to have their days lined up in 5-minute increments, 1-minute increments, and so they're going to be, as we say, chasing that red line, making sure they keep up with the tasks that they have. Because if you fall behind, then that means somebody's got to do some replanning and adjust the mission, and so you don't want to cause that.
So, as expected, the old NASA style, using a bunch of repurposed engines from the space shuttle program, is sending astronauts to the moon. Meanwhile, Starship continues to be way behind schedule and unable to reach orbit. This is the planned route for Artemis. You look at what they're doing. So they're going to burn. They're going to do a loop around the moon. And then they're going to do a lunar flyby. And then they're going to come on back. Free return trajectory, I believe, is what they're doing. I don't think they're doing any burn. Okay, they're doing a return RTC burn. Okay. That's just a slight... That's like we gave $100 billion to Boeing and Northrop Grumman for this program. Starship is bullshit. I mean, yeah. But why do you think any of the research exists for Starship to steal? What do you think? Elon Musk invented shit? No, they stole shit that was already being funded by the government. And then they got government funding to build it. Starship is his first truly innovative idea, and it's failing horribly. They poached engineers and publicly funded research from NASA to form SpaceX. And it's not to say that SpaceX hasn't done anything cool. It has. It has. I give them credit for that. So right now, this is where Artemis is. They got their solar panels. They're heading toward the moon. Currently, they're going 2,553. I guess this is relative to the moon. Oh, are they still in orbit of Earth? Okay. It doesn't really show you where. Okay, here's where they are. So they launched and they're at the high point of their. Okay, there we are. All right, so they're here. They launched and they're at the high point of their elliptical orbit. They're going to come back around. I don't know why it's so annoying to zoom. They're going to come back around and then they're going to do another burn. Where's the other burn? This is their translunar injection burn. So presumably, kind of interesting. Why are they burning so far? Why are they burning here and not closer to the Earth? I guess maybe this is like an orbit relative to Earth. Because it seems to me that that's not perigee. Perigee is over here. But I guess the Earth will be over here. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, it's because of where the moon actually is. Well, why didn't they just wait? Their parking orbit had a low... Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, so Chatter's explained it to me. What's happening, chat, is they have a second stage and they don't want the second stage to be captured in orbit. So the second stage is going to have them pass low so that they're going to pass low into the Earth's atmosphere, upper atmosphere, so that the second stage eventually splashes down, I guess. Is that what you guys are saying? And then they're going to have their TLI burn here. There you go. Guys are going to the moon right now. By the way, I want to just say something for all the liberals in the chat. I'm just going to help you guys out. Space is cool. Spending money on space is a good thing. And that's not just my opinion. That's the opinion of every socialist of all time. Anybody telling you don't spend money on space is a fucking liberal. And the reason why they are a liberal is because they have austerity mindset where they try to frame research and exploration as in opposition to you getting healthcare or whatever. We spend almost nothing on this. We spend all our money on war, okay? And tax cuts for the rich. This is in no way impairing your ability to get housing, healthcare, education, whatever. This, in fact, is probably funding education because there is a lot of PhDs and scientists that are getting jobs that would not have jobs in the free market. They'd be making fucking dumb shit. So readjust whatever liberal programming you got that NASA is bad or space is bad. It's fucking base. Counterpoint, Whitey is on the moon. I don't have a problem with people drawing attention to the fact that we have money to put Whitey on the moon. But we're the astronauts this time. I assume they're doing an anti-woke, it's all white guys shit, right? Oh no, it's DEI. Victor Glover will be the first black person to go to the moon. And Christina Koch will be the first woman to go to the moon. DEI on the moon. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure he's more qualified than the white people are. Okay. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that he's unqualified. I'm sure he's more qualified than the white people. All right. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen each remember looking up to the moon as children. No one person could be as great as this mission, he said. I like to think we explore, especially deeper and deeper, truly just to learn about ourselves. Very, very profound. Isn't it risky to orbit so close to the moon? Yeah. Haven't the Nazis developed air defenses by now? Yeah. Matt Walsh is crashing out about this not being all white men. Stop trying to make me not as excited about this. Matt Walsh is, listen, he's a subhuman. There's really nothing more to say. Look at the Canadians Indigenous Art Mission patch. So they're sending a white guy as the Canadian SMH. A few people have replied to my Artemis post with Gil Scott's Heron's Whitey on the Moon about pilot Victor Glover currently en route to fly around the moon and his connection to that piece. He listens to Whitey on the Moon every Monday? Victor Glover listens to Whitey on the Moon every Monday? Oh my God, that's fucking awesome. NASA, at a space conference I attended in Colorado Springs, NASA astronaut Victor Glover, the pilot of NASA's upcoming Artemis 2 mission to the moon, said something that caused quite a bit of stir. It was April 17, 2023, just 2 weeks after NASA had named Glover to the Artemis 2 crew, a lunar flight that will make him the first person of color to ever visit the moon. Glover was there at the Space Symposium conference with other astronauts to talk about, well, space. But he was also told a group of reporters about his weekly tradition. Every Monday, he listens to Whitey on the Moon on his way to work at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. That is the most based thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Holy shit. Holy shit. All right, we got to listen to Whitey on the Moon.
We have a poem here.
3 other astronauts on a 10-day lunar flyby mission. It's funny because the Space Symposium caused me a lot of grief in the next months because people tried to quote me out of context. Glover told me in an interview last September, it ain't about racism, it's about the human condition. Whitey on the Moon is a spoken word poem by Gil Scott Heron, published and set to music in 1970. It recounts the challenges of doctor bills, taxes, and high rent for black Americans at a time when the U.S. was spending billions to send astronauts to the moon and beat the Soviet Union during the Cold War space race. We just listened. The song is a reminder that everybody wasn't having a good time in 1968 when we launched the first Apollo missions. People were struggling, Glover said. Some people were like, these bills and these potholes, like my condition hasn't been improved by NASA. Glover, who grew up in Sonoma, California, as Sonoma, this guy's fucking cool as hell. Holy shit. Holy fucking hell, dude. You don't know Pomona, chat. Let's just say it's a tough town. And has 4 daughters named Genesis, Maya, Joya, and Corinne, with his wife, Iona. He started listening to Scott Heron's song and poem as a way to keep a perspective that many people out there aren't space-loving cheerleaders, and as a way to share that perspective with his colleagues. That song reminds me that, at that time, that community, which is very similar to the community I grew up in, they didn't feel heard. So it's a reminder to me that there are more perspectives and more stories out there than you'll hear from people cheering for NASA on a regular basis. But those people, we work for them too. The public revelation of Glover's Whitey on the Moon tradition may have given him some grief, but it's hardly the first time he shared personal opinions about social justice. In June 2020, after the murder of George Floyd by then police officer Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, Glover took to what was then Twitter to share his feeling. My heart is low, my head is level, and my faith is high. So much to process. If you're struggling, that's okay. I see you, I am you. Let's dialogue, let's think, let's work. One critic, in a post that has since been deleted, asked why Glover could just stick to space. Actually, no. Remember who's going to space? People are, Glover replied. As we address extreme weather and pandemic disease, we will understand and overcome racism and bigotry so we can safely and together do space. Thanks for asking. But getting back to Whitey on the Moon, Glover said that perspective from the poem is important for some. There has never been any other way to look at life. I have never had the option to not have that perspective. I am a black man in America, he said. I grew up with this. I live in the America that sent me to space and told my grandfather he couldn't fly during the Korean conflict when he was enlisted, Glover added. We live in a very complicated country. Glover, a U.S. Navy captain and test pilot, joined NASA in 2013 and first flew to space on SpaceX's Crew 1, a 6-month mission to the International Space Station. When I came to NASA, they said, hey, we hired you because of who you are, Glover told Axios. Okay, cool, you get all of it. Last September, during his interview with me, Glover said that our complicated country was on full display during the Apollo missions, which flew at the end of a turbulent decade filled with civil rights protests. After the assassination of Martin Luther King on April 4th, 1968, his successor, Ralph Abernathy, rallied some 500 demonstrators, mostly black, to protest the Apollo 11 moon mission's launch at the gates of NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's the same spaceport that Glover and his crewmates will launch from on April 1st. Abernathy and his demonstrators brought 2 mules and a wooden wagon as a stark contrast to Apollo 11's mighty Saturn V rocket, a reminder that the U.S. was paying for moon rockets while others struggled to afford food and housing. The NASA administrator went down himself and talked to him, Glover said of Abernathy, and then Administrator Thomas Paine. And by the end of that conversation, that group of people that was at a protest prayed for the safety of those astronauts in that mission because they had a human moment. They talked and they heard and they were heard. And I think that is a lesson. Well, I mean, it was fucking LBJ's administration. Like, well, yeah, I mean, like, come on. It's not that NASA's guys were more progressive. It was just LBJ's administrator. Like, of course. It wasn't Nixon. Wasn't it? What date was it? No. It was 68, right? Yeah. It was 68. That's LBJ. It wasn't about what it flew. It flew after Nixon got in because he won. He was sworn in 69. Yeah, see, it was April 68. April 4th, 68. That's LBJ, bro. It was an Apollo 11 protest. No, it was a protest after Martin Luther King was assassinated in 68. So they were building the Apollo missions in 68. They didn't launch the thing until 69. Oh, actually, I think the chatters are right. The article fucked with the dates because the article's dates are wrong. This just says after, but it does say it's the launch. So the chatters are right. So it was after the assassination, but he was technically appointed by LBJ, but the protest was happening right before the launch. So technically he was appointed by LBJ, but the protest happened at the Apollo 11 launch. Okay, we figured it out. Mike, did you see that China is done testing the effects of long-term space exposure for potential moon landing by 2030? Oh yeah, they're gonna make it. They're gonna be back first. Anyway, long story short, what's really interesting about this is I protest against the idea. Like, I get why this is said, and this, by the way, Gil's right. Whitey was on the moon while rats were nibbling his sister. That's a fact. That is a fact. But I just want to say, as left-wingers, we don't have to have an austerity mindset where we can't travel to space and explore because we have to fund. We can have both. It is conservatives, it is liberals that puts them in opposition. They're not in opposition. What is opposition is caring for his sister and being a warmongering empire. In fact, we would be going further and exploring more advanced things, and we'd be developing better technology if we weren't spending so much on fucking nuclear bombs and F-35s, a waste of money. Like, we're spending $2 billion a day in the Iran war right now. NASA is like $10 billion a year. NASA budget per year. Okay, so it's $24 billion. Sorry, in fiscal year 2026. So we've been in the what day is this? What day of the Iran war is it? 34 or 35? Okay, according to AI, it's 34. Yesterday was 30. Okay, Iran war day 34. There you go. So we're spending $2 billion a day. We've already spent $68 billion on the Iran war. 3 times as much, almost 3 times as much as we have spent on NASA this year. Anyway, but Gil Scott isn't a liberal for pointing this out. But so, wow, that was a really cool aside. Thank you, chatter. We went down a rabbit hole. That was very cool. And by the way, Thomas Paine was appointed by LBJ. So, or he was acting NASA administrator under LBJ, and then he was appointed by Nixon. Okay, we finally got it right. So I doubt this guy was a super right-wing insano guy, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, never mind. He went and worked as the president of Northup. So maybe he was a little bit evil. All right. Maybe he's a little bit evil. By a little bit, I mean extremely. Okay, where were we? Yes, we're all gonna die from Donald Trump.
Artemis 2, it was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks, our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield, victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them terrorist regime they led, are now dead. Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing, in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're working along with Venezuela and are, in a true sense, joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well in the production and sale of mass.
Wait, I thought that the government of Venezuela was super evil. It's just the one guy? It's just the one guy that was evil and everyone else is cool, including his vice president? This is why you can't take liberals seriously. Like, you can't take liberals seriously because they'll do this whole thing about how Venezuela was the most oppressive, terrible place ever. And then Donald Trump kidnaps the president and starts stealing their oil and gold, literally. And now suddenly they're great and America loves it. So it's like, I mean, you know, now that Cat isn't running, I could say the idea that America is like, oh yeah, we're going to go around the world. We're going to be the world police. We're the good guys. It's just laughably stupid. It just is laughably stupid. We're not the good guys. We have no interest in enforcing international norms. We are out there to force our capitalists in control of other people's resources. So that's why I so strongly disagree with interventionism, right? And why I went a little schizo on Cat, which was my bad, you know, like, because I don't feel like the left should have anybody in it who thinks America's gonna Bigfoot around the world doing intervention. That's just silly. It's a silly idea. We are bad guys. And you don't see liberals calling them out, by the way. You don't see liberals calling this out. You see liberals quiet on it because they serve the same donors. What did Cat say about interventionism? Oh, we already litigated it a million times. You could go look at my YouTube if you want to see my general takes. I'm not trying to make a slam on her. I'm just talking about the idea of interventionism is bad.
Massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on Earth after the United States of America. We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents. This situation has been going on for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office.
This is like one of those things that you have to have like 5 IQ to believe, which is like, oh man, you know, see, America, they could have like all the other presidents, they just should have invaded Iran and handled it. And it's like, because they can't. We couldn't handle Afghanistan and Iraq. And neither one of them are countries. Persia, Iran is an ancient civilization that resisted imperialism for millennia. You know what I mean? Like, who are we kidding? Can we bomb them with our most expensive standoff weapons, cutting-edge technology? Can we bam an elementary school? And it's like, yeah, we can. We can't spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to do that. But can we actually defeat them by occupying them? No. Or what it would take to do that would be so unpopular, it's so expensive, it's so costly in lives that no one in America would stand for it outside of the most dedicated Trump cultists. So this is just nonsensical.
I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani in my first term. He was an evil genius, a brilliant person, a horrible human being, however, the father of the roadside bomb, and he lived. Just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash. Took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had. He flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran. And they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. It would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts. Had I not terminated that terrible deal, I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning. Essentially, I did what no other president was willing to do. They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth.
The problem is that technology isn't going to go away. That ability, you can bomb it, but they know how to do it now. You try to bomb all that shit, they know how to do it now. So what do you, and they could rebuild. What, are you going to just continually bomb Iran always? You're going to just be continually flying in to bomb them? Based on what evidence? Based on what authority? And then the Iranians, since you're bombing them, will retaliate. So this means the war is never going to end. They are not, like, listen, I want to explain something to you, chat. I think a lot of people look at Iran and they analogize it to Gaza. And the truth is it's not. It's not analogous to Gaza. The Israelis can't stamp out the Gaza resistance after years of a tiny non-state enclave that's under complete blockade and completely under siege. They still can't stamp out resistance. You think you're going to stamp out resistance in a nation of 95 million people with some of the largest oil reserves in the world and borders that we don't control? You think we're going to stamp them out? They have mountains, the likes of which are nearly, spanning nearly their entire country. What the fuck are you talking about? Iran makes Vietnam look like a patty cake. And the thing is, they have leverage over the world. Gaza, the Palestinians did not have leverage over the world. Iranians do. They have significant leverage over the world economy. And this is the most important thing. They're being attacked. They're not attacking. They're being attacked. And so everyone around the world is looking at that and going, they're just attacking them. And so there's absolutely no appetite to fight against the Iranians in Europe, in the United States, in the West. I mean, it's just delusion, absolute delusion.
Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible. And they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And they raced for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. But in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up.
I mean, Iran's Air Force was basically a museum piece. Their Navy was a bunch of small boats, except for a destroyer that was sunk as it was unarmed, coming from a peaceful fleet lineup in India. Well, so like you're talking about shit that literally doesn't matter. You know what else is an Air Force? Shahid drones. Doesn't seem like you've taken those out. You know what's an Air Force? The missiles. The missileers that are peppering the Middle East whatever they want.
Are beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear...
What are you talking about? The Houthis said they're entering the war now. Like, you haven't crushed shit. Hezbollah is engaged in combat with Israel right now.
Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I've traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, please, sir, please finish the job, every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history. We're going through it right now, the strongest in history. In 1 year, we've taken a dead and crippled country. I hate to say that, but we were a dead and crippled country after the last administration and made it the hottest country anywhere in the world by far, with no inflation, record-setting investments coming into the United States, over $18 trillion, and the highest stock market ever, with 53 all-time record highs in just 1 year.
I mean, this is why they believe in Taco Trump. They believe in Taco Trump because they think Donald Trump looks at the stock market. And so, therefore, he's going to do... Oh, I have to wash my hands now. That sneeze came out of nowhere. Anyway, ew, gross. Yeah, we blocked it. We blocked it with our hands. Anyway, what was I saying? The markets have basically created the Taco Trump world, which is like oh, we're going to just keep believing that he's going to do whatever it is to make the stock market go up. So the stock market's going to go up. Okay, guys, the stock market's going to go up. And it's just this like self-referencing like bubble that has no relation to reality. I mean, the animal spirits theory has become completely vindicated. People struggling to pay for food don't give a shit about the Dow. I agree with you, but are you gonna? But do those people struggling to pay for food, are they politically active? Are those people struggling to pay for food, do they have a model of why they're struggling? If they do, what's that model? That's the problem that we have. Also, the markets are going fucking weird. They're going super fucking swingy, like a penny stock. Like a fucking penny stock. I feel like there's some sort of manipulation going because I've been seeing a lot of this type of action, this price action where it trades and then all of a sudden there's this dramatic spike and then it kind of trades off of it. We saw the same thing with oil. If you look back a couple days, oil prices were like going up and then all of a sudden there was like an instant. You see this? See this like yesterday? No, here, where was it? Yeah, no, this is the one I'm talking about. Back on the 31st of March, do you see how oil was like trading up and then all of a sudden there's this like random crash? There's these weird like manipulations that are happening. Also, look at the oil market today. Like, what the fuck is going on? Weird crash and then it rises again. Also, American oil is now trading more expensive than European oil? Huh? Has US oil ever been higher than Brent? Not that I can remember. There's usually like a $5 gap. Europeans usually pay $5 more a barrel than the US, somewhere around that. It's due to the months ending at different times. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I understand the futures contracts differences. Maybe that makes sense. They're going to escalate more. No, they're invading. They're 100% invading. Guys, they're invading.
It all positioned us to get rid of a cancer that has long simmered. It's known as the nuclear Iran, and they didn't know what was coming. They've never imagined it. Remember, because of our Drill Baby Drill program, America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas. Under my leadership, we are #1 producer of oil and gas on the planet without even discussing the millions of barrels that we're getting from Venezuela. Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. #1, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And #2, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it. Protect it. Use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible.
Actually, I think Donald Trump being a midwit is like, or like kind of on the slightly dumber end than midwit is actually like, you know, the perk idiot savant in Fallout? You know what I mean? You know the perk idiot savant in Fallout where like you have a low intelligence character and usually low intelligence makes you level slower. But with the idiot savant perk, sometimes you just get a massive amount of bonus experience. He basically has that, where he's a complete fucking moron, but he says shit that like critically hits dumb people. Refunds are when you overpay your taxes and you get your money back because you paid more than you owe. That has absolutely nothing to do with what the tax rates are. It is just you miscalculating, or whoever is doing your withholding, miscalculating what your taxes owed would be and prepaying them too much. That has absolutely nothing to do with the government tax levels. But he says shit because people experience tax refunds as the government giving them money, which it is not doing. That is your money that you are getting back. But only the dumbest fucking morons do not understand it. But unfortunately, that's tens of millions of people. And so when he says this shit, it should be embarrassing. It should be humiliating to hear an American president say something so fucking stupid and to show a complete lack of understanding. But it's one of those things that it makes anybody who's literate and not a moron go like, oh my God, he's so fucking dumb. But everyone who's dumb is like, yeah, my tax refund is going up. He's right. And so it makes people like me underestimate him, and it makes dumb fucking morons love him more. And then and it's just like, and then it's embarrassing. Because now you're in a battle of credibility with the president of the United States, where you're like, the president of the United States does not understand basic tax policy or have basic knowledge that a 16-year-old in a high school level finance class would understand. And so people are going to be like, no, that can't be true. And then you're now resting on their ability to, their knowledge, their ability to do research, their ability to understand things like tax policy. And let me tell you, it's not good. And oh my God, he's such a fucking poser, dude. He's a fucking poser, dude. Everything about him is so fucking cringe. He comes out there and, oh God, I hate to explain this because it's so fucking cringe. But anyway, on the seal of the United States, we have a bald eagle. And the bald eagle is holding an olive branch and a cluster of arrows. You guys notice that? Now, America, because we're a republic and not an empire, the eagle, his head is looking toward the olive branch. Do you notice that? That's the symbolism that's happening in the fucking seal of the Great Seal of the United States. Okay? See how the eagle's looking at the olive branch? Because we're supposed to be a republic who loves peace. Okay? However, fascist cringe lords will fold the flag of the seal of the United States so the olive branch is hidden and the clutch of arrows is in the middle. This is cringe fascist cosplay symbolism that he's intentionally putting out there, and it's so fucking embarrassing. He's such a fucking poser, dude. He's not that smart. Yeah, he's not that smart, but his dumb fucking hanger-on fascist losers are.
Good evening.
God damn. I'm trying to show you the difference. Oh my God, they're so cringe lords. They're such fucking cringe lords. Oh, they're so cringe. Democrats are so cringe too. So fucking cringe.
They are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like never before. It will top the levels that it was a month ago. I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated.
By the way, they have destroyed like multiple THAAD installations. Multiple THAAD installations and radar have been destroyed. America's troops are now hiding in civilian hotels and working from home. Like they're doing like telecommuting from hotels. By the way, Israel would bomb those hotels if it was Hamas and say that they were using those people as human shields. So are American troops using those people as human shields? Are they going into civilian lodgings as human shields? So is Iran free to bomb those hotels? Everything they say about Hamas is actually projection. That's what's crazy.
We are unstoppable.
And it's one of those things where it's like, you don't even have to support Hamas, which is an Islamist right-wing conservative element of the Palestinian polity, right? You could support something like PFLP, which is the left-wing revolutionary resistance group, right? I'm not saying support Hamas necessarily. All I'm saying is they attack Palestinian civilians using the justification that Hamas members were nearby civilians. Meanwhile, Americans are leaving their military bases to go to civilian hotels. What is going on here?
Unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing, the brilliance of the United States military. Tonight, every American can look forward to a day when we are finally free from the wickedness of Iranian aggression and the specter of nuclear blackmail. Because of the actions we have taken, we are on the cusp of ending Iran's sinister threat to America and the world. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. And when we do, when it's all over, the United States will be safer, stronger, more prosperous, and greater than it has ever been before. May God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, and good night.
I honestly, I didn't have a lot of respect for capitalists prior to this because I know them. I've met a lot of them. I've talked to them. And so I didn't have a lot of respect for the entire industry of, stock trading, market, information seeking and things like that. But watching the American markets trade like a penny stock because of some dumb shit that Donald Trump says. It's like, can anyone pretend there's some sort of truth-seeking, information-seeking algorithm happening in the markets? Like, people argued for decades and decades that markets had perfect information. And it's just incredible.
If you just go through the rhetoric, some of the key words that he came up with, it's very clear that we're back to the playbook of threaten to escalate, threaten to take extreme measures, while at the same time they're kind of saying that, well, he's wiped out the Navy, he's wiped out the military, he's wiped out the leadership. He hinted that he'd wiped out the Republican Guard, but based on what you said a few seconds ago about the Qatari hit, the drones are still there. This drone war is dragging on. They're not gone. But what really struck me, he used words like bombing, and then he threw out Stone Age. I mean, this is threatening, menacing, but Iran's really not going anywhere at the moment. They're still alive. They seem committed. And the real question is who's going to control the Straits? That's very important. And I think that there's kind of this subtle concession by Trump that he can't really control it. He's saying others ought to do it. It's distracting attention from the fact that he wasn't able to accomplish this as part of this, epic fury. So that's what caught my attention. But Dan, we jumped to $4 right off the bat within the first hour, and then I'm looking at your screen over here, 107.60. So it looks like this rally has got some legs in it.
John, wanted to just backtrack quickly and double click on what you were saying about the Strait of Hormuz, because this is the primary concern for markets, right? We've got 20 million barrels of oil effectively locked offline. Of course, the gas...
Do we double click anything anymore?
Markets unable to move flows through that critical waterway as well. So as a result, we're seeing gas prices continuing to move up.
I guess applications, you're right. No, I don't. I just push a button. It's very rare I double click off of desktop button. I don't think I use desktop much. You usually just have to do one click. I changed settings so that the desktop icon's open with one click. Yeah, so true. Like when I want to open something, I go into my search bar and I type in the app's name. And then I just click that. You know what I mean? Like I don't even click on icons on my desktop anymore. He uses Windows like a Mac. I mean, come on, guys. It's 2026.
And now the president is also abdicating responsibility here, saying that other countries should...
Mike, how do we get AOC to be braver about being against Israel in the context of the media space, the same way Zoran did to get him elected? Okay, this is what this is. If I unironically get to talk to AOC, I will say to her, the one friction I see from your comms is that you don't understand that we are in a Schmittian moment, and any gestures you make toward Israel or toward, the people that are attacking you is seen as a betrayal of your base and gains you absolutely no credit with your opposition. And so anytime you say anything that seems concessionary towards your opposition, you're going to gain nothing but ire from your own side. The other side is never going to give you credit. They just have to be beaten. Like she had a post she made about the Iron Dome where she's like, I'm cutting off funding for the Iron Dome. Israel can pay for their own goddamn Iron Dome. And people were like, oh my God, AOC wants Israel to have the Iron Dome. And it's like, no, that's not what she said. But they twisted that because she said, pay for your own Iron Dome. You could afford it. To people saying she's in favor of the Iron Dome. And it's like, I understand. That's not what she said. But what she said was not a good way of phrasing it. She should have just said, I believe Israel. She should have just said what she said yesterday. No funding for the Iron Dome for me. I'm against funding Israel's Iron Dome. I want to cut off weapons to Israel's military. That's it. Because they're doing a genocide. And move the fuck on. You're not going to get credit from people going, oh my God, you want Israeli civilians to die? You want Israeli civilians to die? All you have to say is, I don't want any civilians to die, but the IDF cannot be funded or supported because they're doing a genocide. And then you move on. You don't have to be like, Israel can pay for their own Iron Dome or whatever the fuck she said. It's stupid. And that's why I say it's Schmittian. Schmittian just means in fascist discourse, the key insight of fascism is called the friend-enemy distinction, which is basically politics is about destroying your enemies and helping your friends. That's the Schmittian idea. So when I say we're in a Schmittian period, what I'm saying is we're highly polarized. I'm not saying Schmidt is a good philosopher or anything. He's a disgusting Nazi. But my point is that when we're in a Schmittian period, they're treating all of the left like an enemy. So you're going to gain nothing by conceding to them. All you're going to be seen as is a traitor by your own side, even if what you said is completely neutral. And I think that once you understand that insight about how to communicate in 2026, that you need to build an us v them strategy, anything outside of that is just going to cause you to trip over your own dick. And, it is what it is. That's the insight of social media. You don't make friends by being nice to your enemies. It doesn't work. She has way too many DC people in her ear. Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I also feel like the schizos online don't help. Because she gets yelled at with criticism and I'm not trying to be delusional here, but I really feel like she needs somebody outside of her current bubble in there. I'd love it to be me, but if it's going to be Hassan or somebody else, we need somebody in there, man, because there's way too many Elizabeth Warren, Brad Lander types in her orbit, and they're bad at politics. Like, she needs more Zorans. And Zoran, by the way, has the same dumb fucking long time progressive, so-called progressive, nonprofit people, and they're dumb and they're bad at their jobs. Were you watching the oil prices like this when Obama was president? Literally everybody was. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course. The oil prices are going to immediately reflect in costs. Oil prices going up 10% in one day, you dumb fuck. Are you stupid? They're higher. Oil is more expensive now than it ever was the entire Obama presidency. I'll say that one more time. Oil is more expensive now than it was during the entire Obama presidency and the entire Biden presidency. I thought we were getting cheap gas prices. The only time it was more expensive than now was during the fucking Great Recession crash. I understand that the price is going up, but do you expect for there to be shortages? Price goes up as a way to signal shortage. The problem that we have is that oil is a very inelastic demand, meaning that there aren't a lot of substitutes for oil. Now, there are some things that consume oil that you may be able to find substitutes for oil and oil products. But for the most part, oil demand is very inelastic. It's very tough to cram down oil demand because we rely on it for so many things, specifically liquid fuels. So, you know, there's not a lot of alternatives to jet fuel. There's not a lot of alternatives to gasoline. There's not a lot of alternatives to diesel. Now, they exist, but implementing them would take a very long time and trillions of dollars, which is what the Green New Deal was supposed to do. The Green New Deal under Bernie Sanders, the idea of the Green New Deal is let's spend $1.5 trillion a year for the next 10 years and make all the investments so that we have a net zero country and we get ourselves off of dependence on fossil fuels and carbon emissions, and we reduce it to the minimum possible level. That was the idea of the Green New Deal. We did not do that. Now, obviously, the markets believe that oil prices will go down. They believe the war will end. $111 is an oil price of a temporary shock. I want to say this again. This is an oil price that is expecting a temporary shock. If they really thought that the Strait of Hormuz was permanently shut, it would go to 150 or higher. China is full speed on transitioning off oil, and they won't fall off their peak use till 2030. It really isn't easy to move away. Of course it's not. The other thing is, like, oil is used for a lot of other important shit, like fertilizer. What the fuck? Motherfuckers are stealing my entire flow. Sewer socialism early results. Hasanabi reposted. New York City DOT closed pothole work orders per month. Motherfucker. They're stealing my entire flow. Yeah, this is pricing in uncertainty, not a prolonged invasion. Well, not even that, because like I have two thoughts. Right now is probably the most risky time in American history to invest in anything. And that means that if things get better, then you're going to see a lot of gains. If things get worse, we could have a dramatic crash, the likes of which we haven't seen since 2008. And we haven't seen that. We've seen a slow bleed. We haven't seen that big crash. We haven't seen panic. We've seen people take some money off the table. We've seen some people take some profit taking. We haven't seen people panic. This is not panic. 10%, I mean, maybe it's starting to get to panic. 11% in one day is actually starting to get toward panic. People are starting to buy oil. Okay, this is actually starting to get to panic. I mean, 11% in one day is pretty bad. Yesterday, you would have gotten $100 for your barrel of oil. Today, you're getting $111. Bro, that is... Would it please you if it started to get to panic? The answer is, it's not about pleasing me or making me feel any type of way. It's more like, I believe that the markets are wrong. I believe the markets are wrong in that they are underpricing the risk of a more permanent disruption to the oil price. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. I just think they're undervaluing that risk. However, if it doesn't happen, then the markets are going to spring up off of renewed sentiment. However, if it does happen, they're going to crash and inflation is going to spike really fast. So if I'm right, the world sucks. If I'm wrong, maybe we'll be able to muddle through for a few more years. So I am, the best case scenario is surrender to Iran. Now, for the world economy. That is what people are not understanding, is that the stock market is acting like we're surrendering to Iran. They're not acting like we're going to keep fighting Iran. They're acting like this is going to be a Venezuela situation. where we do some attacks on the air and then the government capitulates and then we have a new world order where Iran is now a US ally. But Iran said, no, we're appointing the son of the guy you killed. That's not a sign of peace. You aren't taking in the blunting effects of the SPOR. That's likely why the oil prices are being stabilized somewhat. I mean, I am totally aware of the countervailing effects, which is why oil has been trading lower than this for the most part, is that it's been a blunted and manipulated market. Chat, we're dangerously close. Does this war actually put Iran in a position to become a world superpower? No, because that's not what superpower means. Superpower implies global reach. Iran does not have global reach. They're a regional power, which means they can exercise control over their immediate neighborhood. It means that superpowers that come into a regional power's neighborhood are going to struggle to demonstrate supremacy. I think basically the world we're living in is the Iranian government will need to either establish deterrence, and I only see two ways to establish deterrence. The first is some sort of international recognition that completely lifts the sanctions and pays some sort of reparative payment, and you know, Iran is allowed to fully integrate into the world economy, right? Or they test a nuclear weapon, or the regime will collapse.
Said that the US was going to finish the job fast. He repeated threats to target Iran's energy infrastructure unless a deal was agreed by the new leaders of the regime. Addressing rising oil prices, Mr. Trump insisted that they would soon be falling, and he stressed that the war he had started would be much shorter than other recent conflicts the US had joined. Here's our North America correspondent David Willis.
In his first primetime address since the war with Iran began, President Trump hailed what he called America's overwhelming victories and said the conflict was nearing completion.
I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We are going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing.
Whilst intimating it is open to negotiation, Iran has insisted that no direct talks have been taking place, contrary to President Trump's assertion that the regime is desperately seeking a ceasefire. And as Iranian missiles continued to pound Israel and US allies in the region, there was no word of the potential deployment of US ground troops. President Trump appears to have abandoned his demand for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is effectively blocking this vital waterway, driving up global energy prices in the process. But Mr. Trump no longer believes that's America's problem.
We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on.
President Trump said the Strait of Hormuz would open up automatically once the war has ended. America's allies will be relieved to hear he made no repeat of his threat to pull out of NATO in response to Europe's lack of support for the war. But there was also no word of where the conflict might go from here. The White House clearly wants this conflict to end, but how and on whose terms? The world is none the wiser. David Willis, BBC News.
Friendly reminder that Joe Biden could have just recognized a Palestinian state, negotiated a long-term peace treaty with Iran, stopped sanctioning Venezuela, basically prevented inflation by having oil prices, like normalized relations with Cuba and Venezuela, thereby allowing Venezuela to export millions of barrels of oil, which would have drove down the oil prices even further, preventing inflation while also preventing the massive wave of Cuban and Venezuelan refugees who are fleeing American sanctions policy. So the whole migrant surge could have been completely avoided. The inflation spike could have been completely avoided. October 7th could have been completely avoided. Online leftists trying to poison people against AOC. Listen, my general feeling about this is, one, if you're against AOC, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The second thing I would say is AOC does need to get a little bit better at how she makes her points. And as I said before, I did a whole thing about the Schmittian divide. We are in a highly polarized time. You gain nothing but conceding to the opposition, especially the opposition of like Israel supporters. They're feral fascists. You gain nothing by doing anything toward them. Now, the other thing leftists need to get over is AOC supporting the Harris campaign for president. Can you imagine how unpopular AOC would be among the base had she not supported that? She would have hurt herself so badly with mainstream Democrats, they would be blaming her for every single thing that is happening because of Donald Trump. It's like, it's baby shit. I mean, like, give me a fucking break. Bernie Sanders did the same thing. Ilhan Omar did the same thing. Summer Lee did the same thing. You guys are just being fucking weird. Of course, people are going to endorse their party's nominee. If they don't, that makes them a freak, supposedly. Like, that's just not even, that to me, that doesn't even enter into like a realistic. Now, the dumb thing she should go back on was the idea they were working for a ceasefire. And she should actually just come out. This is what she should say. She should say, I was lied to. I was lied to by the people that are supporting Israel about how they wanted a ceasefire. But it has since come out that it wasn't true. And I think it was a huge mistake to sideline the pro-Palestinian advocates in 2024. That's what she should do. She should say she was lied to and say that it was a mistake because she was like, that's the strategy. She shouldn't go out there and try to justify it. It's a stupid strategy. Just say Kamala Harris is a loser. Everybody knows Kamala Harris is a loser, but they might not like it if you say she's a loser. So you have to imply she's a loser without actually saying it. That's how you get normie Democrats to like you while also they know she's a fucking loser. That's why they're not really supporting her to run again, because they know she kind of sucks. So all you have to do is acknowledge that you have to just play the game a little bit. A lot of leftists are just completely opposed to playing the game. They feel like you only are allowed to have your maximalist position and you're only allowed to phrase it in the most confrontational way. And that's just not true. You need to be able to talk to the audience you're speaking to. AOC is going to run against Kamala Harris in the 2028 primaries. It's good politics to shit on her. You have to be, you don't understand Democrats. I'm sorry, you don't understand Democrats or how to run. You have to be seen as attacked to attack back. Let the other side make the first swing. On the Democrats, you have to be righteously responding. If you're a Republican, you could be the feral evil worm. They love that over there. Unfortunately, on our side, everyone's a fucking bleeding heart, soft-headed, empathetic fucking moonbeam. So you have to get swung on first in order to swing. Unfortunately. How do I know? My entire career. People don't like me because I'm mean or gruff or whatever. They never actually say that I said anything that's bad or incorrect. They're just like, I don't like Mike's attitude is mean. Mike's personality is mean. And it's me yelling at liberals. So I would know better than anyone how you need to actually operate. The word is abrasive, but sometimes you need abrasive. Third Way has gone full on with the Cuomo strategy. Assad is their #1 target. Yeah, we're going to talk about that shortly. It's very fun. You know what I think? How insane would it be? I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm just like, I think this is a possibility. It's been tickling in the back of my mind. And it's like, Iran keeps insisting that JD Vance go and negotiate. And it's like, what if they're going to do what we did to them? What if they like assassinated JD Vance and went, turnabout's fair play? Like, that's the thing that I think might happen. And I'm like, oh God, what would happen if that happened? Like, I grimace. You know what I mean? You know when you're it looks like you're smiling, but you're grimacing, and you're like, people smile like, you're not smiling, you're grimacing. A rictus smile, exactly. By the way, chat, we are 2.5 hours into the stream, and right now we have a community train. We are dangerously close to a community train. If you enjoy this content, if you like being on a stream where they're right all the time, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach it to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. Right now, chat, during a community train, the higher the level we get in the community train, the more free emotes there are for the chat. Wow. This is definitely Twitch's best idea yet. You get a bunch of random hype train emotes that other people pay for you to get. Wow. I think this is such a great idea. It's practically socialism. Anyway, chat, there's a lot of people here working paycheck to paycheck, parents of young children, college students, people on a fixed income because of retirement or disability, or just regular people struggling to make ends meet. So when you give subs, those are the community members you are helping. They get access to Twitch Rewind. They get access to Twitch VODs. And they get access to our amazing, incredible, unbelievable Twitch emotes. So when you gift a sub to this community, not only are you supporting me, you are supporting members of our community who aren't able to afford a sub. You're doing praxis right there, man. Like, how much of a better person could you be? U.S. and Israel literally blow up Vance's peace talks after strike on Iranian negotiators' home. Guys, they're invading. I told you they're invading. They're fucking invading. Iran's foreign minister, Kamal Karazi, who had been helping organize a meeting with J.D. Vance aimed at ending the war, was injured when a residential building at Tehran was struck. Guys, I think they're not being honest about trying to have a peace deal. I think they're going to invade. Now, I said they were going to invade, chat. I predicted they would invade April 11th. My prediction is April 10th to 11th. They're going to invade after the markets close next Friday. Some people think it's going to be this weekend, which I think is my second choice. It'll either be this weekend or next weekend. Why do I say that? Because I don't think all of the Marine forces are positioned yet. And I think they're bringing in Delta, they're bringing in Special Ops, and they're bringing in 2 Marine expeditionary units. And I don't think they're totally positioned yet. Will we do it on Easter? That would be very anti-Christian, but they are actually, that would actually be, you know, I don't tend to follow the, you know, I don't tend to say so-and-so is the Antichrist. But if Donald Trump started an invasion on Easter, that would be very Antichrist coded. That would be very Antichrist coded. It's like, yeah, you know, the Redeemer, the Lamb, the sacrificial Lamb of the who gave up his life for all our sins. Yeah, let's start a war on that day that he rose again. Let's do that. Actual Antichrist shit. Anyway, chat, the community train right now is giving away 608 emotes because it's level 8. Wow. That's incredible, chat. That's incredible. And we are getting closer and closer to 7,000 subs. Wow. They think they're in a holy war against Islam and it would be based if they did it that day. I'll bet you money. I mean, it's the Prince of Peace through strength. It's so funny to be a Christian and be like, yeah, we got to kill everybody.
Our correspondent Lorna Gordon is in Dubai. Lorna, how have the Gulf states...
Will they do an uranium extraction plan, Mike? That seems so fucking stupid. And that may kill everybody in that who attempts to do that. That sounds so stupid. It's unbelievable. Yeah, guys, we're going to be... What? You're going to be moving forklifts around? The special operators are going to be operating forklifts and they're going to do like what? They're going to fly them into what? C-130s that are like landed? Like, what's the plan? They're going to excavate? Like, what the fuck's the plan? That may actually be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What if all of Delta Force was killed in Iran because they tried to do Donald Trump's cockamamie plan? The logistics would start with striking Iranian defenses and equipment to create safer passage for the ground troops who would then fly hundreds of miles into the country to establish a defense perimeter at the facilities. One option is the Army's 82nd Airborne and Rangers parachuting to seize the ground, which could be within the range of enemy artillery, missiles, and drones. From there, engineers would build an airstrip to bring in supplies and equipment, some of which may be airdropped from cargo aircraft or slugged from utility helicopters. Both options would leave the slower moving transport aircraft vulnerable to enemy fire. Keeping the heavy excavation work going would require a deep bench of support troops, officials said. Mechanics, drivers, refuelers, and others would work round the clock. Food and water would need constant resupply. Civilian nuclear specialists from the Energy Department and other agencies would be on site to assess risks and supervise the uranium removal. The operations to house, feed, and protect personnel would look like a small base than a low-profile clandestine mission. The effort to blast through the rock and enter the storage area would be the start of a grueling yard-by-yard process for commandos to enter the abyss of a facility thick with unknowns. Branching teams with possibly from Army's Delta Force or Navy SEALs would wield saws and blowtorches to get past obstacles inside the underground facility where shooters covered them. The commandos would wear protective uniforms and rebreathers, carrying sensors to detect radioactive threats. Ladies and gentlemen, This may be the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. All Iran would have to do is have a bunch of guys flying in swarms and swarms of first-person drones. It's an absolute suicide, and they could just rain like regular mortars and artillery. Do you understand how overextended the air cover would be? They would not have air supremacy. It's hundreds of miles away from bases. They wouldn't be able to do this for any amount of, like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. They would all die. They would all die. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 30 seconds away from the community train. Please consider supporting the stream. It does mean a lot. Thank you for all the support. Let me thank some of the gifters. Kit Kat, thank you for the 5. Type 2 Diabetic, thank you for the 5. Ham and Fist, thank you for the 20. Can we get some bended knees for Ham and Fist? Socialism or barbarism, thank you for the 5. You guys are the best. You're my ride or dies. Can I say, Ham and Fist, you're one of my true ride or dies. Thank you, brother. Like, you are underappreciated by the chat. You don't come in here, you just support the stream, and I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Ham and Fist. Soviet Cranberry, thank you for the 5. All right, let's keep moving. We're all gonna fucking die. God damn, is that dumb as fuck. Jesus Christ. And if you're wondering why is this stupid, Mike, because in order for this to operate, how are you gonna maintain air superiority? You're gonna be flying aircraft in to do air superiority from hundreds of miles away? And they're going to do what? Mid-air refueling? They're going to fly out of the Iran to mid-air refuel? Or you're going to mid-air refuel over Iran? How are you getting these guys out? You're going to build an airway. You're going to build an airstrip? This is not what airborne troops are supposed to be for, chat. This is not what these guys are supposed to be for. They're supposed to go in and go out. They're supposed to go around enemy lines to establish some sort of short-term beachhead or toehold that then gets backed up by attacking ground forces or marine landings to link up. They're not supposed to like land hundreds of miles away in the middle of the enemy country and then establish a fucking like zone and then hold it while they do fucking engineering operations. Like this is like creating an encirclement. This is like intentionally creating an encirclement. I finished trading in my gas car for a used EV, 9K miles on it. I paid $18,000 out the door. Yeah, EVs are like super cheap right now. You can get some pretty nice EVs because they're highly depreciated. Apparently, they're looking into using microwaves to brick drone swarms electronics. Do you understand the inverse square law? They actually have Marvel movie brain. It's actually insane. I don't know. Do you think like the only reason I'm like shaking my head is I don't want to see a bunch of people die. Like that sucks, right? I also don't. How will America react to like an epic military defeat? Like an undeniable like military defeat with like prisoners and like the American flag like being ripped up and burning vehicles and just everyone captured and just totally humiliated. Like how would America handle that? How would modern 2026 America handle that? Like, I understand. See, the thing is, during Vietnam, we had people that had experience with World War II and World War I and the Korean War who were alive, right? We have not fought a war like that for decades and decades and decades and decades. Your parents can barely remember Vietnam if they were even alive for it. Like, that's the thing that I'm wondering is it's like, what would it look like if an amphibious assault carrier was heavily damaged or sunk? What would it look like if 1,000 American troops were killed and captured? And they were utterly defeated? Like, what would that look like? They just lie and say the mission was accomplished? I mean, yeah, true. The West has a sandbox of the Ukraine war. Guess what happened to the Russians when they tried to do the drop airborne guys behind enemy lines? Go look at the Battle of Kyiv. They tried to do this exact idea in the Battle of Kyiv. Look how that worked out for the Russians. They got fucking wiped out. The Russians tried this exact same idea that Donald Trump is talking about, and they got fucking wiped out. This is the battle I'm thinking of. The Battle of Antov Airport. They brought in, like, Russia's special operations paratroopers, and they all got murked. These were some of the most elite Russian troops, and they got fucking murked because they tried to do this idiotic, like, way behind enemy lines landing so they could have the airport to bring in more, like, troops and reinforcements to capture Kiev. It did not work. They were fucking murked. Like my grandfather was in the Air Force K-9 unit. He said the only purpose was to kill dogs. Oh, no, 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 no.
Reacted to this televised address by Mr. Trump.
You know, the Gulf states are actually...
No, there were 500. Like, they almost destroyed the paratrooper unit. It ended up, the remnants ended up withdrawing with, like, the Russians ended up getting, like, some ground troops to the outskirts, but then they pulled out. If you look at, like, the map of Ukraine war, if you look at it, if you look at, like, the map of the Ukraine war, you see all that baby blue? All the baby blue was the initial Russian attempt to take Kyiv. And they ended up getting fucked up, and they realized it was untenable, and they withdrew all the forces. And the Ukrainian counteroffensive, they pushed them back out of all that. And the Russians did what? They said, okay, we're not going to take over all of Ukraine. Let's focus on the territory that is most sympathetic to us. So they took the Donetsk region. So, and this is where it's been stopped. So people looked at this and went like, haha, Russian military is so ineffective. The United States of America tries to do that dumbass shit that I just read. It's going to end up like this. I made the map that you said someone should make. China's built thousands of miles of high-speed rail since 2008. I took the same distance and mapped it out on a network connecting every major U.S. city and still had 10,000 miles of track left. I want my tax dollars spent on trains, not Israel. He even got to Butte, guys. He connected Butte. Also, you connected Butte, but you didn't connect Erie? What are you doing, bro? It's so funny. This map is funny because it's not really the biggest cities. It's like the biggest cities in the state. But it's okay. You did a good job, Chatter. This is just a good illustration of just how much high-speed rail could have been built. Having the Chicago line go to Davenport and Des Moines and Omaha and then Lincoln, it's like, that's how much high-speed rail they built. They're connecting Des Moines to New York City. Speaking of Ukraine, Americans really love seeing the POV drone footage when they kill Russian troops. I wonder if Americans will feel the same way when they see the fear in their own soldiers' eyes milliseconds before the drone obliterates them. Oh, it's gonna be, you're gonna be fucking tracked down by the FBI if you post that shit. They're gonna be trying to clamp down on that shit so hard. You think you're gonna see that shit? They will fucking arrest your ass. You're gonna have to go on the dark web to see the American troops shit. They're not gonna let us like have that kind of fucking shit be spread. They'll have a sensor finding you. Sorry for Reddit. Footage of Russian helicopters crashing in a reservoir the day of the Ostobo Kyiv during the opening days.
Being courted with words by both sides at the moment. Donald Trump spoke of not failing the Gulf states, not letting them get hurt in any way, shape or form, while it's reported that a spokesperson for the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said that Iran does not consider its neighbours in the Gulf Iran's enemy. There are, of course, though, continuing missile strikes on these countries. Overnight, the alarm sounded here in Dubai. Saudi Arabia said it intercepted a ballistic missile that was heading to the east of the country. Sirens sounded overnight in Bahrain as well. So there are these words, there are the actions, and then, of course, there is the Strait of Hormuz, that pinch point, that choke point where around a fifth of the world's oil has to pass, and where normally around 140 ships transit through every single day, but at the moment only a handful are getting through. There is that meeting that will take place a little later.
Wait, Iran can still shoot missiles? Yes.
The Gulf states will be taking part in that to discuss diplomatic measures to potentially open that waterway. But of course, the Gulf states do not speak with one voice, and the UAE is seeking a resolution from the UN, calling on the UN Security Council to take immediate action under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter to ensure safe navigation in and around the
Guys! Israel and America illegally attacked Iran with no justification and no Security Council resolution. But we need to use the Security Council to force Iran to open the strait. Like Iran would listen to that. Like, do you see how much of a joke that is?
And of course, remember that would, if it passed.
Why doesn't Aden have air defense and try to shoot down B-2 stealth bombers? If you want to understand, like, do you really want me to explain to you how wars work? Like, do you want me to explain to you? Could you even comprehend fighting wars? Like, do you want tactics? Do you want to understand seed? America has weapons that are called standoff weapons, And we also have SEED strategies, which is suppression of enemy air defenses. It's so whatever you have a radar array or any kind of anti-air system, it projects radiation into the air that can be detected. Also, there is intelligence and other ways of developing a picture of how a country's air defenses operate. There are certain weapons that are very hard for air defenses to detect. Like, for example, ballistic missiles. They're very difficult to intercept. Drones, very difficult to intercept. Stealth aircraft, very difficult to intercept. So the United States used extremely expensive standoff weapons in the hundreds of millions of dollars to attack Iran's air defenses from very far away. We used about a decade worth of our production on Iran. So in order to get the weapons back that we used in this month, it'll take us a decade to build those rockets back. The reason why Donald Trump is wanting to end the war is because the United States is losing its ability to use standoff weapons. And when we lose the ability to use standoff weapons, when we have to use more conventional weapons close in, they will start getting shot down.
Which is, you know...
Hold on, I hear like they might be firing Pam Bondi.
But would give legal cover for a range of options, economically, diplomatically, and using force as well.
How much closer does all this bring to retaliatory strikes of some sort from Gulf states that haven't so far taken such action?
I think they want a diplomatic resolution to this crisis. It is having a deep economic impact on this region, not just on the flow of oil, which would fill the coffers of the governments here and keep the economy moving, but it's affecting the flow of liquefied natural gas. It's affecting the byproducts of these industries as well. And of course, in a country like the UAE, which is heavily dependent on tourism and here in Dubai, the aviation industry, it is having an impact on that as well. I mean, you know, flights in and out of the international airport here have picked up since this war started over a month ago, but they are still carrying on at a vastly reduced level. As I said earlier, they don't all speak with the same voice. I think perhaps the UAE is one of the states which has taken a harder position in terms of ways to deal with Iran, but none of these countries want to see this escalate. They want to find a diplomatic solution to this crisis.
Lorna, for the moment, thank you very much. Lorna Gordon in Dubai. Let's speak to Dr. Patrick Bury, conflict and security lecturer at the University of Bath and a former NATO analyst. Dr. Bury, thank you very much for joining us. What are your thoughts having heard President Trump speak on television?
Good morning. Thanks for having us on again. Well, I suppose when you look at your phone in the morning here in the UK, one of relief that although the chances were small that there hadn't been some sort of movement and committal of ground forces before he made his speech, which would have made more tactical sense. So it's essentially more of the same. He put another time stop on how long he thinks this operation will go on, but it is a significant addition to when he initially said 4 to 5 weeks. So we're looking at now 7 to 8. And just at the end of his speech, when he said this wasn't about regime change, that is not actually what was the stated goal when he spoke on Truth Social when the operation started, when he called for the Iranians to rise up. And also, it was also made clear by the Israelis that this was about regime change. So a kind of attempt to change the goalposts, as it were.
What are his options?
I think the options are pretty difficult here. What you've seen is with the amount of
Bondi out, Blanche as interim.
Kaylee, I just got off the phone with President Trump. We have a big scoop. Pam Bondi will soon leave her job as the Attorney General. She is going to get a different job within the administration. It doesn't sound like there is any bad blood between her and President Trump, but it does seem like they want her to go and do something else. And in an interim role, she will be replaced by Todd Blanche, who is currently her deputy at the Justice Department. So it doesn't sound like Blanche is being elevated long-term to the Attorney General. There might be somebody else that the president wants to go in there. But President Trump soon will announce to the entire world that it is the end of Pam Pam Bondi's time as the Attorney General.
I can
still
type,
thinks
I swear.
that she is a great person and that she did a good job. And he still wants her in the fold because she will still be.
I love Trump, dude. He gets exactly what he wants. It fails, and he bans. He gets mad.
Part of the administration, he tells me, but no longer as the top law enforcement officer of the United States. That, at least for a little while, is going to be.
Holy shit! This is so fucking funny. They. Oh, the Dow. How is the Dow doing? Okay, so it was down 600, but it came off those bottoms. But oil is still massively up. What is going on, man? What about bonds? The 10 years down? I don't understand anything, man. I don't understand why anything is doing anything. How's Bitcoin? 66. This is the number it keeps bouncing off of. Every time Bitcoin gets to 66,000, it like finds a bottom. It keeps bouncing off of 66,000. It's been battling with 66,000 for like a month now, 2 months now, which was the peak of the prior spike. The prior bubble was around 66. 67,000 was the last bubble peak. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but like, that's just arbitrary. Oh, brother, please bring Sidney Powell. How are we living in this world? How the fuck are we living in this world, dude? How? How the fuck?
We're back with some breaking news. MS Now has learned President Trump has informed Pam Bondi she will soon be removed as Attorney General. That's according to a White House official telling our colleague Jake Traylor. With me now to break it down, MS Now Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delaney and MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin. Ken, we were talking about this in theory just last hour, but these things move fast. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Ali, it is a fast-moving story, and our intrepid White House team, as you said, is digging into this and is now hearing from multiple sources that this departure is imminent, that Donald Trump has decided to replace Pam Bondi as Attorney General, and among the people he's considering to replace him is Lee Zeldin, the former congressman who's the EPA administrator. That would be an interesting choice because I don't believe Lee Zeldin has ever served as a prosecutor. We've also heard the name of Senator Eric Schmidt, who was the Attorney General of Missouri, bandied around. There's a lot of speculation swirling, a lot of people putting their names in for the job. I would imagine, as someone who's covered the Justice Department for a long time, that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, who served loyally as Donald Trump's defense attorney, would put his name in and would want to be the Attorney General. Although the question is he too closely associated with the administration of Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi obviously came under fire, even from Republicans on the Hill, for her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein matter, for initially seeming to promise revelations when she handed out a bundle of files to influencers early in the Trump presidency, only to then later acknowledge that there was nothing in those files, and then to endorse a statement from the Justice Department saying essentially there's really not much to see here, there's no further prosecutions expected, and then to decide not to release the files, only to be forced by Congress to preside over this massive release of millions of pages of files, which by some accounts was handled badly, mistakes were made. But that's not the only reason Pam Bondi is on the hot seat here. Donald Trump reportedly is incredibly dissatisfied with what he sees as the slow pace of the Justice Department prosecuting his perceived political enemies. And that's even though the Justice Department has done things that no Justice Department has ever done in modern history, has essentially given up its independence and taken cues from the White House and brought investigations based on very thin evidence and specious claims and gotten rejected in some cases by grand juries and procedurally by judges. And yet Donald Trump somehow thinks that a new Attorney General will be able to bypass that and move faster as he seeks to use the Justice Department to pursue his political enemies, Ali.
And Ken, you have to wonder, too, for Todd Blanche, if you question if this is really all about the handling of the Epstein files, which you know that it's not because you laid out the other facets of this. For someone like Blanche, who had proximity to the way that Ghislaine Maxwell was handled, if that is something that makes it harder for him to ascend to this top spot. But I want to drill down on something, Ken, because our banner right now reads that Trump informed Bondi that she'll soon be out of this post. Why wait?
Is Trump done with the bimbo appointments? No.
Of question. Only Donald Trump knows his own mind in terms of these personnel decisions. Perhaps they are still working through who the replacement might be, and they want to sort of sequence this and announce a replacement as they announce her departure. Is there a chance for a cabinet shuffle? Could she move to a different job in the cabinet? That's always possible, the way these things go, although it's hard to imagine Pam Bondi being satisfied with a different job than Attorney General. She was the Florida Attorney General. She's identified herself as a career prosecutor. And look, she could make a fortune in the private sector at this moment as the former Attorney General representing clients before the Trump administration, if that's the route she chose to go. So it's anybody's guess why Trump is doing it this way. But one thing we know for sure is that he has decided to replace the Attorney General.
And our team is trying to get a little bit more information about why there might be a wait. I'll read a little bit of that new reporting from our colleagues Jake Traylor and Laura Barone-Lopez, because one official talking to them about this shuffling says that Trump still personally likes Bondi and notified her before officially removing her to, in their words, help her along. But at the same time, Lisa, many people in Trump's orbit have had knives out for Bondi. They've wanted to see her pushed out of this post. Even we saw Chief of Staff Susie Wiles in that infamous Vanity Fair interview say that she saw the mishandling of Epstein from Bondi, specifically pointing out the moment where Bondi said, I have the Epstein list on my desk, and then she didn't. I think it just added to the confusion around the DOJ's handling of the files. But I think, again, if we turn back to Todd Blanche, who is also not just #2 at DOJ, but Trump's former personal lawyer, what do you look at for the stakes around him? Because I think many would assume, all right, the #2 ascends to the top spot.
Well, certainly on a temporary basis, the #2 ascends to the top spot. We saw that last time, for example, when Bill Barr resigned at the very end of the first Trump presidency. Jeffrey Rosen, who was then the Deputy Attorney General, became the acting Attorney General and had to deal with the increasing pressures on the Department of Justice to intervene in the election, and ultimately was the Attorney General in place when January 6th happened, Allie. But let's go back to why not Todd Blanche? Because perhaps of some of that administration dissatisfaction with Pam Bondi and how she handled that initial promised rollout. You'll remember on January 30th, when 3 million pages of documents were released in the Epstein files, who stood at the podium and took questions and really described to the press assembled, I believe Ken was even in the room that day, what was about to happen? It was not Pam Bondi. It was Todd Blanche. And so Todd Blanche cannot disavow the handling of the Epstein files any more than Pam Bondi could. Many people might.
What do you mean handling the, like, this is supposed to be the liberal network. How do you handle facts? Donald Trump is a pedophile. Donald Trump is a close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files. There's no way to handle that outright destroying them and editing them and creating a cover-up. There's no way to fucking handle it. Which, of course, I guess is what they're saying should happen because, again, MSNBC loves the Epstein class as well. MS Now.
Say that he has been the face of the administration with respect to compliance or attempted compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That's the act of
Bondi begged Trump not to fire her during dramatic White House showdown as insider reveals his final straw. They run the White House like it's a reality television show, like a bad one, like a one-season one. I do think there's been permanent damage to our brains, like absolutely permanent damage to our brains for how people think you should interact. I almost feel like a dinosaur in that I believe in like human dignity. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like class or like refinement or like any kind of just dignity, really. Shame. I don't think the human race has ever been this like this is like, have we ever been this slimy? Like we've always been evil. But there's been a little bit more in sophistication surrounding the evil. This is like trailer trash. This is your baby daddy is your husband's brother kind of shit.
Congress that demanded the release of those 3 million pages. Ali, I also want to share with you, I'm getting some reaction to the news of Pam Bondi's potential firing as soon as perhaps tomorrow from survivors and their lawyers. And many of them are somewhat buoyed to hear this news, but of course for them, this is sort of a necessary but not sufficient move. They say Pam Bondi still has some explanation to do for how this has all gone down.
New poll. Okay, we're going to be continuing to cover this, but This is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Democrats are asked about what they think about the Democratic Party.
No, not at all, at least when it comes to you isolate Democrats. I mean, these numbers are just atrociously awful. A double A for the Democrats here. I mean, just take a look here. Congressional Dems have the right priorities. Look at this. Overall, 74%, nearly 3 in 4 say no. Just 25% overall say yes. You might say, okay, well, at least Dems like Democrats. Not the case. Look at this. The majority of Democrats are independents who lean Democrats. Look at this. 55%.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna fucking win. Them trying to go after Hassan is evidence of how weak and feckless they are. And honestly, I'm glad. I'm actually happy about it. Can I explain to you why I'm happy about it? Because every Democrat that's stupid will not go on Hassan's show. Everybody who's a fake will not go on Hassan's show. If they were intelligent, they would use Hassan, because Hassan, quite frankly, is soft and kind toward people. Like he is always willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. He's always willing to like look at the better angels or imagine them, right? So all the people going after Hassan are just revealing themselves, and they're missing a gigantic opportunity. And it's fucking awesome. So the more people that attack, like, I want the fake Warrenite progressives to be scared of going on Hassan's show. It is clarifying over who is the real candidate and who's a fake candidate. So this is fucking awesome. I love the fact that they're doing this. I hope they do it more.
And say no, congressional Democrats do not have the right priorities. And then you just see a minority, 45% of Democrats say that congressional Democrats have the right priorities. This to me just jumps out at the screen because it screams primary challenges all over the map. And it says that even if Democrats don't like Donald Trump, they don't like their own party either when it comes to Congress. And overall, I mean, my goodness gracious.
So this is sort of like Democrat on Democrat crime here. What's overall approval among Democrats of their leaders?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, you speak about Democrat on Democrat crime. And I want to know how unusual what we're seeing right now about how Democrats feel about Democrats in Congress is. Take a look at this. This is a trend line going back through the years, midterm elections in which there's a GOP president. Look at this. In 2006, Dems' net approval of congressional Democratic leaders was plus 28. You go back to the last midterm, look at that, plus 19. Very much on the positive side. The bottom has fallen out. The bottom has fallen out. Minus 4 points. That is Democrats. Democrats' own net approval of their own congressional leaders. Even Democrats don't like their own leaders when it comes to Congress. And overall, of course, the numbers are just absolutely awful. So Democrat on Democrat crime, absolutely. This
is good. This is great. This is amazing. Now, if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I want us to have our own party, our own progressive party. We should start from scratch. And we should, anybody who wants to join us, great, but they have to follow us, all of our conditions. Right, that's what I'd love for that to happen. Unfortunately, it's not quite ripe yet. And unless we have major political leaders, national political leaders that want to launch that project, it's not going to happen. Now, in the UK, ironically, what happened in the UK is they were forced to do that because they were purged. They wanted to stay in the Labour Party. The left wanted to stay in the Labour Party, even as they were getting fucking called anti-Semitic and treated like garbage and decertified and all sorts of abuses. They kept trying to stay in the Labour Party. They had to actually be purged. Now the left has been purged, and ironically, that forced them to try to start to make their own party, and then that was a fumble because they had a bunch of rad lib moralizers in the party that were very annoying, and they had Trotskyite splitting, and it ended up failing. But that gave the opportunity for Zach Polanski and the Green Party to run an eco-socialist campaign, a anti-Zionist eco-socialist Green Party, which is the best Green Party in the entire world, and now they're skyrocketing in popularity. So they'll have an opportunity to create a real left-wing party in the UK, and I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them. So we'll see how that goes. Iglesias is saying people should go on Hassan's stream and pretend to be anti-Israel. Yes, that's what I'm scared of. That's the smart move. That's the smart move, because Israel is right now the easiest way to differentiate yourself from establishment, because the establishment forces you to be pro-Israel. And so if somebody's pro-Israel, that means they're really not with the movement, and they're a betrayer, and that you could identify, you could easily distinguish between the two. So I'm scared that neoliberals would follow this. This is good advice. This is the first time I've seen Matt Iglesias do good advice. So I hope they don't do that. Stick with Israel, just so we can defeat your asses.
He screams, again, primary challenges across the map, and it screams to me, hey, when it comes to those next leadership elections, maybe something might be cooking.
It also just means we have to maybe look at these midterms differently, because this is a different prism. We haven't seen this type of thing before. We don't know what impact that might have.
That's exactly right. And there are a lot of folks who've been looking at the generic congressional ballot and wondering why Democrats don't have a larger lead, and this is a big reason why, I would think.
Okay, so there's Hakeem Jeffries in the House. Chuck Schumer is the Senate Minority Leader. What might this mean for Chuck Schumer? What are some of the predictions about whether he can stay as the Democratic leader?
Chuck Schumer has been the Senate leader for the Democrats for a long period of time, before I even came to CNN, and I'm not quite sure that he will stay it. Take a look at where the people who are putting their money where their mouth is. Chance Schumer wins the next Dem Senate leader election. Back on December 1, look at this. It was 2 and 3 according to the Cash Prediction Market. Then drops to 56% in February. And then look at where we are right now. Just 50%. A coin toss. If I had a coin, I would toss it up in the air. A coin toss when it comes to Schumer actually winning the next Dem Senate leader election. And we've seen a number of Senate candidates, Democrats, across the map saying, we don't want any part of Chuck Schumer to be the next leader. And there's a big reason why that is, and it's because at this point, look at this -4, even Democrats don't approve of their own congressional leaders.
These numbers bear watching over the course of the summer and into November, to be sure. Harriet, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, I have been arguing something for a long time. A long, long time. If you know anything about my stream, what is the number one thing that I would say that you could get as a distillation of what my stream argues about the Democrats? What is like the organizing idea of what I say about the Democrats? If you guys try to summarize it in the chat, I'll see if anybody gets what I'm putting down. Other than I'm being right. Democrats hate their base. Check. Controlled opposition. Check. Liberals will betray you. Check. Democrats hate their base. I already said yes. Those are correct. They hate us more than the right. Bing, 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 bing. Noble Surf gets it correct. That's right. So that's the idea. The Democrats are controlled opposition who hate their base and would rather lose to the Republicans than win with the left. That is the way to think about the Democratic Party establishment. All right? And a lot of people have gotten mad at me over the years for saying that. I call, the Democrats are the Washington Generals to the Republicans' Harlem Globetrotters. They exist to get dunked on. They exist to get 30% of the donor money from the corporations and the billionaires to the Republicans getting 70%. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money and buy a lot of gaudy McMansions in Arlington off of that system. That's the Democratic establishment of Third Way. Okay? They have their cabin cruiser. They go out on the Gulf. They have their gaudy McMansion in Arlington, and they're fucking worthless. Okay? That's the Democratic Party that doesn't know anything. Everybody in Northern Virginia knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody in Northern Virginia knows exactly what I'm talking about. Am I right or am I right, Virginians? Am I right or am I right? And I've been saying this for a long time. A long, long time. And then something incredible happened. Yesterday, my enemies at the Bulwark, they just came out and said it. They just came out and admitted it. They would rather lose than work with Hassan. I'll say that again. Third Way came out and said they would rather lose than work with somebody like Hassan. How big is the Democrats' big tent? The creation of the Hassan-Piker litmus test. In the aftermath of the 2024 election, a few points of agreement emerged among Democrats about where the party had gone wrong. Chief among them was that candidates simply had to ditch the litmus test culture that had forced them to adopt positions outside the mainstream and led them to avoid uncomfortable or tricky interviews. Now, that is fucking meaningless. That means absolutely nothing. What does that mean? We should support pro-life presidential nominee who wants to ban abortion? What does this mean? Among the most vocally making the case were center-left organizations like Third Way. There is no world where Third Way is center-left. There is no reasonable approximation of American politics where Third Way is center-left. They are in no way left. They are pro-capitalist, pro-imperialist, anti-immigrant, anti-trans,
They are not in any way center left. They have not one position that is center to the left of center of American politics. They are firmly center right. They're the biggest. They wanted to champion a Joe Manchin presidential campaign. In no way is that center left. That is just delusional, and that is propaganda. Now, I want to show you this, chat. This is the bulwark. This is the bulwark. They are propagandists for the right. They're entryists of the Democratic Party from the right. They want to move the Democratic Party to the right, which urged the left flank of the party to recognize that a winning coalition requires tolerance of a wide range of viewpoints. Remember that, chat. They beg candidates to stop listening to advocacy groups and refuse to fill out questionnaires and policy pledges that they argued had pushed the party too far left. Now, guys, when you think about Kamala Harris, how many of you think she was too far left on policy? Like, for example, her policy 2 and her policy 2 and her policy. What were her far left policies? The answer is there is not one, not a single one, not one. For a good part of this year, the consensus held. Democrats embraced a just win baby mentality as they branched out to different podcasts and generally avoided the rhetorical and policy missteps that plagued them in 2024. But as the midterms near, the consensus is now being tested, and it's third way doing the testing. The group has spent the past few weeks urging Democrats to distance themselves from Hassan Piker, the widely popular Twitch and YouTube streamer. The group's president and press advisor, Jonathan Cowan, and Lily Cohen, co-authored a Wall Street Journal opinion piece arguing that Piker's misogyny is indistinguishable from that of far-right influencers. Now, chat, notice that they went to the Wall Street Journal opinion page, a far-right rag of Trumpian drivel. They didn't go to the New York Times. They didn't go to the Washington Post. They went to the Wall Street Journal opinion page. And they said that he was misogynistic, accusing him of anti-Semitism, saying there was no excuse for putting political tribalism before Jewish safety. Things escalated last week when Abdul El Sayed, who is running the Democratic primary for Michigan's open Senate seat, announced that Piker would campaign with him on college campuses. Then, this morning, Cohen sent a letter to El Sayed warning that there would be a stain on his character if he followed through with the planned rallies, especially after a Michigan synagogue was attacked last month. The letter lists 6 questions and bullet points, asking El Sayed to respond. What happened, chat? Questionnaires, litmus test. What happened? So the answer is they just can't argue their points. That's why they don't want you to have questionnaires. They don't believe that what they would say is popular. You don't think that Third Way has tried to massage their positions and their arguments in every which way and twice on Sunday, and they could never find a way to argue their points actively that was popular? So they're just giving up on persuasion. Third Way wants you to give up on persuasion. That's how bad they are at this. Do you agree with Piker that America deserved 9/11? Do you think that there's a lot we can learn from the Chinese Communist Party? Do you share his belief that ultra-Orthodox Jews are inbred? Do you dismiss the mass rape of Jewish and Israeli women by Hamas? Do you believe that Hamas is 1,000 times better than the Israeli state? If you do not endorse all of Piker's views, which specifically do you reject? Now, every single one of these points is a lie, except maybe 2, which is, and it's not the Communist Party, it's the learn from China. We should all be willing to learn from China. That's absolutely asinine. It's 1.4 billion people and the second largest economy. What do you mean we can't learn anything from China? Are you fucking insane? How racist are you? Do you believe, also, he doesn't believe ultra-Orthodox Jews are inbred. He was specifically talking about settlers that were attacking violently a humanitarian convoy and assaulting the truck drivers. Here it is being reported in the Jerusalem Post. Jordan says Israeli settlers attacked Gaza-bound aid convoy. Tez-9 activists prevent aid from entering Gaza. Activists slashed the tires of 2 humanitarian aid trucks leaving Jordan for Gaza on the Albany Bridge on Sunday night. Israeli media reported. The trucks were forced to turn back and return to Jordan. So they're attacking humanitarian aid convoys. Palestinian lorry drivers recount settlers' attack on Gaza aid convoy. Israeli soldiers escorted convoy accused of doing nothing to stop widely condemned incident. This is what Hassan was talking about. They were destroying food to prevent it from going to Gaza during starvation. And he called these people that were attacking aid, peace aid. Here's a video of it. Gaza-bound aid trucks set on fire and looted in West Bank. So if somebody wants to find the clip of Hassan saying inbred, I'll show you. It's this exact story that he was talking about. And they're saying he called Jews inbred. No, he called settler terrorists inbred. Suddenly, we left in a convoy with an army vehicle in front of us and an army vehicle behind us, and we took special army road that civilians could not cross. Suddenly, after 20 minutes on the road, near the crossing, we were surprised by 400 settlers. They attacked us. The rest of the drivers and I escaped from vehicles after the settlers started throwing stones at us. Situation escalated when the settlers started breaking the windscreens. 5 minutes of Hassan calling a wide variety of people inbred. No, I just want that specific clip. Don't give me a bunch of extraneous bullshit. And like, that is ridiculous. Do you share his, did he dismiss the mass rape of Jewish and Israeli women by Hamas? First of all, there is no evidence of mass rape on October 7th. None. It doesn't mean that Hamas definitely didn't do any sexual crimes towards prisoners or during October 7th. But there is no credible information saying that someone was raped on October 7th by Hamas. Certainly not the idea that Hamas was using it as a weapon of war. What we do have credible reports of is Israel raping Palestinian prisoners and torturing them to death. We do have evidence of that. So that's not what Hassan was saying. He was saying that even if somebody committed a rape, that wouldn't make genocide justified. Just like a Jewish person in Germany committing a rape didn't make the extermination of Jews during the Holocaust justified. When you take an instance of a individual criminal act and you try to apply it as collective responsibility of an entire ethnicity, that's called genocide and collective punishment and collective guilt. And that is a crime against humanity. You believe that he does that Hamas is 1,000 times better than the Israeli state. Israel is doing a genocide on the Palestinian people. It is doing illegal annexations of Syrian, Lebanon, and the West Bank as we speak, and Gaza territory. It is actively committing a genocide. I may disagree with the way that Hamas, and I may condemn various war crimes that Hamas has committed. But war crimes, when compared to the whole-scale slaughter of an entire people, a genocide is the worst crime. Now, I wouldn't say 1,000 times better because I don't think you can compare and contrast war crimes like that. Israel is committing the ultimate crime of genocide, and Hamas is a resistance organization that has committed war crimes against that genocide. And when you look at the two, compare a resistance group resisting genocide to a state perpetuating genocide. The state perpetuating genocide is by far and away the more culpable group. And that, so what the fuck? So even all these lies that I just debunked them all, it's ridiculous. This is what they were using. I don't care what they were using. I asked for a specific thing. Give me the thing that I asked for, not something else. Jesus fucking Christ. Or just don't send me anything. Like, it's fine to send me nothing. Don't send me something different than what I asked you for. Like, what? Huh? Hassan has a few choice words for his bad faith critics. Yeah, we'll read this next. The third way's critics, this was nothing short of abject hypocrisy. A group applying litmus tests to a liberal candidate after demanding that liberal groups drop the litmus test they placed on mainstream candidates. This is so clearly third way, riling people up in a way that's so disingenuous, said Amanda Littman, the co-founder of Run for Something, a progressive group that recruits and trades first-time candidates. She emphasized that part of politics is how you deal with people who say crazy things you don't agree with, and you have to work with them anyway. Who's doing the scolding here, she asked. I thought we weren't supposed to cancel anyone anymore. For third way, there is nothing inconsistent about its approach. Oh, you don't say. Well, yes, it was attacking the left and saying go right, and now it's attacking the left and saying go right. They're completely consistent. So nobody can find the clip I'm talking about? All right, let's stop the stream. Oh, thank you, fat guy. You did it. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh my God, these inbred fucking douchebags in the background, dude. Meanwhile, do you want to know what happens to the aid? Today at noon, Trachomia checkpoint, we did what we could to stop the hundreds of settlers from destroying food that was supposed to feed tens of thousands in Gaza, and for a moment it seemed that we succeeded. But there were only 2 of us. Next, we will reach hundreds. Like, this person was trying to stop the fucking freaks in the back from destroying the food trucks, destroying the aid on the food trucks.
So this is a Jewish peace activist tried to protect aid trucks. Hassan didn't say anything anti-Semitic. He called the people destroying food aid inbred, not Jews.
But unfortunately, because there are only two people, okay, two very kind individuals, the other people back there are the vile scumbags that fucking are destroying the food, the aid on top of the fucking aid trucks, the food trucks that are already being blocked from going into Gaza anyway. How insane is this?
All right, listen, just so I avoid crashing out, I'm going to say something. If you post the wrong clip again, you're going to get at least an hour timeout. So stop posting the wrong clip. We have the clip. I'm watching it. If you continue to post the wrong clip, you're going to get at least an hour timeout, if not longer. It may even go to a week. So just stop posting the wrong clip. I am making an argument.
מטריות אינסטנט שהיו אמורות להגיע לעזה. זה מה שהם עושים. אפשר לראות שהצבא פה, המשטרה כבר הלכה, הצבא לא עוצר אותם, לא מעניין אותם, נותנים להם לזרוק את הכל. אחרי שעמדנו, חטפנו מהם.
Oh my God, these inbred fucking douchebags in the background, dude. Jesus Christ, dude. Just like... She's saying the military isn't stopping them. Yeah. Oh, that's the other part of this too. The military absolutely does not fucking do anything to stop them.
It's
food. They're destroying food, chatters.
Okay, so you see the settlers destroying food. That's the context. They're destroying civilian aid. Here's the article that shows the context. You see this see this aid truck right here? See that aid truck? Gaza-bound aid truck set on fire, looted in West Bank? That's the clip of Hassan saying inbred. You can see the same type of boxes. See the same type of boxes? There they are. Here they are on the truck. Here is after the settlers rip them off the truck and destroy them. He was calling settlers destroying civilian aid to protect against a famine and starvation inbred. He never said the words Jews are inbred. He has never said that. That is an outright lie. And it's very important that we correct this because this is how these evil Israeli spies spread their lies. And I don't want you to try to find other context. This is the context. This is what they're saying. This is the lie. And now you have the confidence to go forward and be like, no, that's bullshit. He never said that. In an interview, Cowan told me he draws a distinction between demanding policy purity from a candidate and moral clarity. He argued that if Piker had said offensive things about a minority group other than Jews. So this is basically the game that these Zionist liars play, which is you criticize a Zionist or you criticize the criminal who is doing crimes, and then you look at that person and you go, oh, you're criticizing Jew. You're criticizing Jews. Look at how they're criticizing Jews. And it's like, no, the person is Jewish, but that's not what we're criticizing. We're criticizing their actions, not their identity. We're not attacking their religion. We're not attacking their ethnicity. We are attacking their activity, their behavior. The settler property, the Zionist settlers who are attacking civilian aid convoys and drivers and destroying food to prevent Palestinian civilians from being fed. That is who we're attacking. We're not attacking Jews. And the fact that they try to frame it that way shows you how much contempt they have for you. They have so much contempt for you. They think they can lie to you. Democrats wouldn't have hesitated to shun him. Al Saeed, the rally with Piker, he said, is as if George Bush had campaigned with David Duke instead of denouncing the KKK leader. So there you have it, chat. Assad criticized a war crime, and they're trying to say that he's David Duke. This is why you have to stand up to it. That's why you have to defend Hassan, not say Hassan has said things I don't agree with. Do not give them a fucking inch. Do not give them an inch. This is a lie. It's an outright lie. And they know they're lying. They're trying to defame him. It's a fucking lie. There's not one iota of truth to it. Not one. Most significantly, Cowan made it clear that he'd rather accept sub-electoral risk than see the party show flexibility on this front. If people really are arguing that the price of winning is becoming like a bigoted misogynist like Hassan Piker, then I'll take not winning, Cohen told me. What is the point of reviving the Democratic Party so it can compete in an age of right-wing populism if the price is you mainstream bigoted, anti-American, misogynistic voices? So there you have it, chat. They would rather, from their own mouth, centrist Democrats say we'd rather lose than win with Hassan. We'd rather fascism prevail than mild social democracy. Because I want to tell you something, chat. Hassan Piker is practically a centrist. Hassan Piker is practically a centrist. If I'm being fucking honest with you, Hassan Piker is practically a fucking centrist. If you want far left, ask me what I think we should do. Then you'll learn far left. Let's just say the name of my movement is the American Land Reform Movement. Fill in the blank. Piker has gained this type of lightning. I mean, it's just nonsensical. And I've been saying this for a long time. They would rather lose to fascists than get mild social democracy. And in fact, I think I've said it very recently. Mild social democracy. Centrist Democrats hate the left and will never compromise on any policy if it means the left grows. They will forever collaborate with fascism to stop even mild social democracy. May 29th, 2025. Once you understand that centrist Democrats would rather control the party and lose to Republicans than create even mild social democracy, you will understand why the Democrats suck so much. This is direct evidence that the Trump fascist right wing is directly colluding with the Democratic Party establishment and their allied media. Case study in how centrists are eager to work with fascists to block even mild social democracy. I've said this so many fucking times that there you have it. So what I've been arguing, they now openly admit. I've been trying to convince people of this for years, and now they fucking admit it. Now, Piker has gained this type of lightning rod status for Third Way is a testament of two things: the controversial statement he made in the past and the size of the audience he has in the present. The 34-year-old operates one of the most subscribed to channels on Twitch, has a sat for glossy magazine profiles, and has been generally viewed as the type of person who could be the liberal Joe Rogan that Americans need. Someone who would help the party regain cultural relevance and reach people who had turned out its message. But after all, he's an unapologetic progressive who lifts weights and pops Zyn and has millions of men, mostly young, mostly white, flocking to his stream to watch him game and analyze the news. And not only that, he has a lot of young women too. He has a lot of trans people too. Although, honestly, you guys got to do your research. When's the last time this motherfucker gamed? I feel like I've gamed more recently than him. Is that true? I played Marvel Rivals recently on stream. Am I a bigger gamer than Hassan? Hold on, chat. We've got to look this up real quick. We have to look this up real quick. I think I may be more of a gamer than Hassan. We might have to go to Sully Gnome for this. Sully Gnome might be the better place for this. Hold on. I might be a bigger gamer than Hassan. Oh, just chatting. Okay. Last 90 days. Fuck. Okay, wait. 2 hours, 14 minutes. Reanimal. Okay. Hold on, chat. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. You're more of a gamer than Hassan. Come on, Mike. You did it. You definitely gamed longer than him. Come on, 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 Mike. Come on, come on, Mike. You're more of a gamer than Hassan. This will be so funny. Internet is slower than ever. Oh, fuck. Fuck. God damn it. God damn it. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. I only gave for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Son of a bitch. Shit. Fuck. God damn it. Son of a bitch. He games more than me. Fuck. I do game with Netsuel on his stream, though. That is true. God damn it. Oh, that would have been a good talking point. Okay, editors, edit that out. Edit that out. It doesn't matter. We don't need that in the highlight. No one needs to know that I gamed less than Hassan in the last 90 days. Let's not. We don't need that in the highlight. Edit that out, chatters. Edit that out. All right, everybody, lock the fuck in, okay? We're back to the video. Also, we have a hype train. Pat Mahoney, thank you for the 5 gifties. All right. Given the size and makeup of his audience, operatives have hustled to get their candidates booked on his stream. Recent guests include Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, Tom Steyer, Brandon Johnson, Ben Rhodes, Sakat Chakrabarty, who's running the Democratic Party to replace retiring Rep Nancy Pelosi, and El Sayed. If you want to run for office and engage, and there's also Zohran Mamdani and AOC. Zohran Mamdani and AOC have both been on. Chat, we are dangerously close to another hype train. Just saying. Who's just in the algorithm? If you want to run for office and engage in politics today, you have to go where people are actually paying attention, said Chakrabarty. It's ridiculous that the Democratic Party is on one hand saying, let's find our own Joe Rogan on the left. And then when you have somebody like Hassan who's actively engaging the population the Democratic Party wants to engage with, and they're not willing to go on his stream. I think it shows a disrespect for voters. And frankly, one of the reasons people keep voting not for Democrats. Rye Elms. Thank you for the tier 2. You're the best. The infamous AOC Among Us stream. No, AOC was on Hassan's stream at the Zohra Mamdani election night party. Gramsci's homegirl. Let's fucking go. Gramsci's homegirl. Did you see I cited Gramsci lately? Did you see that I cited Gramsci lately? War of position versus war of maneuver. No biggie. Anyway, let's keep going. But Piker has said some offensive things. He can be crass and cocky and kind of annoying. In no way has he been annoying. This is just revealing your own right-wing bias. Everyone bend the fucking knee to Gramsci's homegirl. I see like 5 people bending the knee. Somebody drops 50 fucking subs and you guys are not showing your gratitude? All right, motherfucker, I'm calling you out by name. Mike Taylor McGinnis, you got gifted a sub and you're here. Tori Adore, you were gifted a sub and you're fucking here. Where the fuck is your thanks? I know you're here and you were gifted a sub. You better say fucking thank you. He has hesitated to support Democrats he views as too moderate, including California Governor Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden. And then there are his comments about Jews in the Middle East. He often blurs the line between thoughtful anti-Semitism or thoughtful anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Assad has never, not once, blurred the line between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Not once. Not once. And even if we inadvertently did, after speaking for literally thousands of hours on camera, unscripted, we have always apologized and corrected it. No reasonable person could do what we do without having a couple verbal gaffes. You know how I know? Every single fucking media person who has done a job similar to us, like talk radio, has a long list of misstatements and and nobody gives a shit. Meanwhile, this is what's so fucking disgusting about these fucking never Trump Republicans of the bulwark, you fucking scum. You were big fans of Rush Limbaugh when he was having dance parties whenever someone with AIDS died, you fucking scum. And you were a Republican the entire time. Shut the fuck up. Never Trump Republican scum. Talking about offensive. Get the fuck out of here. A problem that Democratic leaders have grown increasingly worried about is the situation in the Middle East grows unstable. He's repeatedly referred to Orthodox Jews as inbred. In a 2019 video, he said America deserved 9/11. He later said that his remark about 9/11 had been taken out of context for his larger point he was trying to make about the boomerang effect of U.S. interventions in the Middle East. He likewise maintains his other critiques have been part of the Israeli government and not the Jewish people. Despite the controversy, or because of it, millions of people turned to Piker for their news. As evidence of his draw, El Sayed's campaign told me they'd received more sign-ups by far for the rally with Piker than for any other event. John Hugs, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. Hassan Piker, do you see your power? Anonymous gifter. Chat, my goal is that Hassan and I are going to have a personal friend get elected to U.S. Congress in Los Angeles, California. This is going to happen. I'm going to make Hassan do this. We're going to figure out whoever it's going to be. It's going to be someone that we know that listens to us. I swear to fucking God, it's going to happen. If we don't find one of our friends, I'm going to make a friend. The debate around Piker goes deeper than clashes over campaign tactics and thank you so much for more gifts, Wenson. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you. Anonymous gifter, thank you for the 10 tier 1s. You're the best. Let me just say this about Caroline Kwan. I personally believe that Caroline Kwan would be a global superstar if she ran for Congress. That's my personal opinion. It's not glazing. It's not simping. It's just my personal belief. I believe that she is exactly the type of person that would skyrocket to international stardom if she ran for office politically. If she decides she doesn't want to do that and she's more focused on art and what she's passionate about, that's totally fine. I'm not here to make her do anything against her will. I'm not trying to be weird and pressure her to do something she doesn't want to do. I just see that incredible talent. That's it. That's all it is. And if she wants to do her own thing, do her own thing. One thing about political office for women, though, is that women are not they're used to doubting themselves and making themselves smaller. And in my experience, getting a woman to run for office involves showing her that a lot of people really believe in her as a leader. So I just want to I want to respectfully say I believe in her as a leader and move on. I'm not trying to make it weird. I'm not trying to put pressure on her. We're friends, but I'm just saying I see that she could do that, and I believe she would be incredible at it. That's it. You bring it up often that it's getting a bit weird. I mean, fair. If you feel like that, I'm not going to say you're wrong. Here's the thing. I just believe that we need more female leaders. And if you look at Congress, our best Congress people are all young progressive women. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, AOC. Those are our best leaders in Congress. They're all young progressive women. That chatter is dumb. It's not weird. I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know, it is what it is. I don't mind getting critiques. Like, I'm not trying to make people feel any type of way. I'm just saying that this is someone who I believe has the talent to do it if they so choose. So if she chose to do that one year, if she eventually decided, not this cycle, but in a couple years from now, she wanted to do that, I'd be 100% behind her, because I believe that she's one of the few people that is savvy online and connects it with real grassroots organizing. When she was on the picket line for the writers, for the actors, like, she really demonstrated her savvy connecting both online organizing with real life organizing. And I think she's smart, and I think she's experienced in politics. Oh, that's why I say that. Anyway, let's keep going. The debate around Piker goes deeper than clashes over campaign tactics and media strategy. It involves questions about what's required of Democratic Party at this political moment to keep Donald Trump's authoritarian project at bay. If democracy really is at risk, do Democrats have the luxury of kicking someone like Piker out of their tent? Or does it require making political alliances with people who have said bad things on the internet? Alternatively, is staying away from Piker an important part of guarding the party's boundaries, something that has to be done even when the stakes for democracy are existential? How does recognizing that our patriarchal society makes women insecure sexist? I mean, this is not... whenever a man analyzes patriarchy, there is a conservative instinct to try to make them somehow misogynistic for noticing misogyny. Like, the fact that I'm noticing misogyny for women in politics means that I am actually misogynistic. In fact, it's not even like my opinion. It's a long time established political science fact. Best way to get women to ask to run for office, ask repeatedly. Women make up less than 20% of those serving in Congress, but more than half the population. There are many reasons for this, but one simple answer comes back and again. It's about recruiting. When Monica Youngblood got the call, she thought it was a joke. The call came from a man she had worked to help get elected. It's your time, he says, he told her. We need people like you in Santa Fe. We need a voice like yours who's lived here, who's been through what you've been through. I think you really need to consider it. Like, this is just literally part of reality. Again, I'm not gonna continue talking about this because I want to talk more about Hassan Piker and the bulwark shit. Become an accomplished politician or die. Exactly, that's my attitude. On Instagram, running in the Democratic primary to oust Gillen, Kiana Biera Anderson. She's a young progressive and has actual policy. Sounds cool. Why do you people say things without explaining it at all? I don't know. Don't ask me, man. For a while, the party seemed to have clear answers to these questions, that generally speaking, the pursuit of power did not require purity or perfection, and that the party needed to go everywhere and talk to everyone. But as often the case, the Democratic political class is invested in winning intra-party ideological wars, and sometimes that has come to the cost of winning elections. It might not be the case in 2026. There's a non-zero chance that this suit devolves into escalating calls for cancellation. The tent already includes, says Piker, Usama Andrabi, a spokesperson for progressive group Justice Democrats, told me when asked about Third Way's response to Piker. I think the question is actually whether our tent should continue to be big enough for a very vocal minority of corporatists and right-wing hawks who are still trying to keep the party under the grips of corporate interests and war hawk lobbies like AIPAC. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats. So there you have it. The bulwark is... I really don't like the bulwark. I really don't like all these never Trump Republicans. They have dog shit instincts. They're always wrong. And it's embarrassing. Assad is the tent. Third Way and bulwark. What a burn the tent. Democratic voters agree with Assad Piker more than the party itself. Yeah. Ooh, this is a good one. Yes. This is a very good article. I like this. Jules, this is cooking. You're cooking. You're cooking. You're cooking with this one. All right. What was I saying? Okay. Gosh, I'm done talking. Can we go back to making fun of Pam Bondi being fired? I'll be back.
Breaking news, MS now confirming Pam Bondi is out as Attorney General. Todd Blanche is in, at least as interim director. I want to bring in the guy who broke this story for us, MS Now White House reporter Jake Traylor, along with Jonathan Capehart, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and host of MS Now's The Weekend. Here in studio, MS Now congressional reporter Michael Chanel. Jake, tell us what you learned.
Yeah, Chris, this is obviously happening all in real time. But MS Now has now confirmed from a White House official that Attorney General Pam Bondi has been removed from her role, which then would subsequently lead to the fact that Todd Blanche is now the acting interim Attorney General. As you noted just a moment ago, the White House official told me that we expect to hear from Blanche, at least on social media or a post about it, in the very near future. I was told from a former White House official we can also expect a truth from the president, a truth social post from President Trump momentarily. Now, this is all, of course, is happening in real time. I will note that Blanche is now serving as the interim. There still appears to be an active, ongoing consideration of and building of a short list of who might eventually fill that role more permanently. Folks from inside the White House and outside have floated the names like Lee Zeldin, Elena Habba, Jeanine Pirro, Senator Eric Schmidt. So there's a lot of these folks that are floating around as to who the president may be inclined to pick. Look, we know, Chris, that for months, internal White House officials have told MS Now that there have essentially been knives out for Pam Bondi. Really, this began with her handling of the Epstein files. This was building all along. But another White House official told me that unlike we've seen the ousting of other White House officials in this second administration of the president's, this time around, the president has a real fondness for Bondi and didn't want to just make the Truth Social post announcing she had been fired or was being demoted. Instead, this time around, the president told her in some type of private conversation, hoping that she could land on her feet more positively, leaving this role after the reporting has come out over the past couple of days, and particularly over the past couple of hours, that Bondi's role is imminently being removed. It seems as though the president, in some way or the other, has made some type of decision that Bondi has been removed, that Blanche is now acting interim. The story is developing in real time, and that short list is what we're, of course, now chasing after to try and understand who the president may permanently now replace Bondi with.
And I'm going to come back to you in a few minutes because I want to talk through some of the pros and cons of the people who you just named are on the short list. But let's keep it in the moment here, Jonathan. As Jake rightfully points out, we've all known that over the last few days, the buzz has been building about Pam Bondi getting the ouster. But what do you make of the fact that it's happened now?
Well, two thoughts come to mind. My first thought was this, to me, sort of showed just how perhaps inside the White House, last night's speech about the war didn't go over so well. And so this is a perfect distraction to get us away from talking about last night's speech and talking about something that is way closer to home and more and consequential for this administration. The second thing that comes to mind, Chris, is this. Even though Jake reporting that the president wanted to, he has a fondness for Attorney General Bondi, it reminds me of what happened with now former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, where the chatter was out there and then the removal happened. And I remember the removal happened, and Kristi Noem, back to then Secretary Kristi Noem, was giving a speech outside of Washington, and everyone wondered. I remember watching our colleague Katie Tur wondering, does she know she's been removed? So at least in this case, Attorney General Bondi was informed by the president herself and had some time to process it before it went public. But this is pretty incredible, and I am eager to see who is on this short list and sort of play the parlor game. I guess Michael will be able to help us with this, and Jake. Who would actually be able to get confirmed?
Well, yeah, I want to go back to that, but can we just remind folks, Jonathan, about Todd Blanche? Now, first of all, he was the president's lawyer, right? When there was the 34-count indictment against him. He loses that case, but, and this is a huge but, he was able to use the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity to delay any sentencing until after the election, which, of course, the president won. One would have to think that Todd Blanche, for all the other rumors that are out there, has got to be high on that short list. But what do you think?
Oh, good. I was thinking we were going to come to that later. Yes, if I were the president, I would just elevate Todd Blanche. He is the number 2 at the Justice Department. He knows him. He trusts him. He is acting as his personal attorney, even though he is supposed to be Deputy Attorney General of the United States. If he doesn't choose Deputy Attorney General Blanche, it would behoove the president to choose. I think Jake mentioned a senator whose name might be in the mix. Choose someone from the Senate, which would make it a little bit easier to get that person confirmed. But Alina Habba, Jeanine Pirro, wow, good luck with those selections if the president does decide to do something as crazy as that.
Okay, we have the posting from Donald Trump. And here's what he says on Truth Social. It's long, so stay with me here. Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my attorney general over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much-needed and important new job in the private sector to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and a very talented and respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will step in to serve as acting Attorney General. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump, which leads me to you, Michael, which is, first of all, I have two questions. First about the reaction, and then obviously about who could get confirmed. Let's start with reaction. What are folks on the Hill texting to you, because your fingers have been flying since you sat down?
Yeah, immediate reaction. Again, as Jake mentioned, Pam Bondi was on the ropes since this reporting started coming out late last night, early this morning. A lot of reaction. First from Democrats saying essentially good riddance, literally good riddance. Ted Lieu, he's one of the top Democrats in the House. He said goodbye and good riddance to Pam Bondi. You were exceptionally terrible at your job. It's bipartisan. Folks who aren't sad about him leaving. Nancy Mace, she was one of those Republicans who signed the discharge petition to release the Epstein files. She has been beating the drum on that issue, the issue that Pam Bondi has drawn so much criticism for. She wrote on X saying, if the reports that Lee Zeldin will be replacing Pam Bondi as Attorney General are true, I welcome it. Bondi handled the Epstein files in a terrible manner and made the situation far worse than it had to be for President Trump. I look forward to a new attorney general committed to getting justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Chris, one thing to keep an eye on is that the Oversight Committee last month had issued a subpoena for Pam Bondi to appear before the panel to discuss the handling of the Epstein files. It was something that was largely talked about as a bipartisan vote, and there are a lot of questions now about, well, what exactly will happen with that subpoena date. She was called to appear on April 14th. We do have a statement from Robert Garcia. He's the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, which oversaw that subpoena. He said he still expects Pam Bondi. She should still have to come in, writing in a statement. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been leading a White House cover-up of the Epstein files. She has weaponized the Department of Justice to protect Donald Trump and put survivors in harm's way by exposing their identities. Here's the key graph. She will not escape accountability and remains legally obligated to appear before our committee under oath. She must answer for her mishandling of the Epstein files and the special treatment she has given to Ghislaine Maxwell. So we're going to have to see how that pans out, but certainly.
Well, that's my question, because he is the ranking member. He is not the chairman. What do you think the chances are that still happens?
Well, I think frankly, I think there are a lot of still unanswered questions of, is the subpoena still alive and still valid, given that she was subpoenaed as Attorney General and she is no longer in that position. She's going to be somebody in the private sector. I think there are still just a lot of questions about the enforceability mechanisms, but certainly, you know, the immediate reaction right here from Democrats saying they are going to keep up the pressure on Pam Bondi to appear before their panel, because they have so many questions about the Epstein files, the handling of the investigation, which was, again, since Pam Bondi came out with those binders and said, we have the files. I mean, this has been the thing that she has just seen so much scrutiny for on both sides of the aisle.
So Todd Blanche has just posted on this. Pam Bondi led this department with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship. Thank you to President Trump for the trust and the opportunity to serve as acting Attorney General. We will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything in our power to keep America safe. Could he get confirmed?
Well, the way that nominations work in the Senate is that you just need a majority, right? And so Republicans, of course, have the 53 to 47 majority over Democrats. So it is plausible that he could get confirmed unless there are any hiccups along the way, though it will be an interesting process, confirmation hearings, all the such. But again, this is the important part of when the filibuster, the 60-vote filibuster was nixed for nominations years ago. This is one of the byproducts of that if there even is a change of a change of the seat in the middle of a term. It just requires a majority, and Republicans certainly have that in the Senate.
Anybody else on that list, Jonathan, you think sounds like somebody who could get through not just the Republican Senate, but maybe even get support from the Democratic side, or absolutely not?
I don't know. Jake,
Jeanine Pirro couldn't get Democratic votes? Is that what you're suggesting?
At 100%, Jeanine Pirro would not get a single Democratic vote, nor would Alina Habba.
What? Why are you saying stuff like that? The Democrats love to vote for Trump's appointees.
I think I'm not sure about.
I know she's a self-serving idiot, but why would you willingly walk into a position where you have to do a cover-up for a PDF? The answer is she understands what being Attorney General means for her generational wealth. You don't understand this, which is okay because people don't explain it often. So I will explain it to you so that you understand why people do things like work for Donald Trump. If you are a cabinet secretary and you perform for corporations as a cabinet secretary, you will very likely spend the rest of your life on corporate boards and C-suite level positions being paid millions of dollars a year. If you're an attorney general, you will very likely become a named partner of one of the top law firms in the world, where you will receive literally tens of millions of dollars a year for the rest of your life. Becoming attorney general is basically the same thing as winning Powerball. So that is what people you don't seem to understand. Like, we look at Donald Trump and we look at these idiots and we think they're fucking jokes, and they are. But they are at the very height of world society. Cabinet secretary position, senator, president, attorney general. These are people who will then be connected for the rest of their life. I just showed you the head of NASA during the Apollo missions went on to be the president of Northrop Grumman. Military industrial complex. Do you understand how much he got? I mean, you know what I mean? Generational wealth. He was the administrator of NASA, and then he went to be a president of a major military contractor. And so I think that's what you people don't understand, is that when we're talking about something like attorney general or cabinet or whatever, it's really the same thing as saying you enter the capitalist ruling class. And I think that term may not really sink in to a lot of people. But we're talking about generational wealth for you and your family. And if you're Pam Bondi, you're a fucking, as I said, trailer park redneck from Florida who was probably the least educated attorney general, state attorney general of the entire country, the most incompetent. And now you've been elevated to the ruling class. How many people do you know would sell their soul for 100 million? How many people do you know would sell their soul for 10 million? How many people do you know would sell their soul for 1 million? Then you can kind of understand why these people are willing to do what they're doing.
Lee Zeldin, but one of the reasons why my attention is focused on Todd Blanche is because, one, of his tight relationship with the president. As we all know, that arm's length relationship between the White House and the Justice Department no longer exists. But the other thing that I think Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has going for him is that he is an attorney, and he is an attorney, at least before he joined Trump's orbit, with a stellar reputation. And I think he would bring a seriousness to the job that current Attorney General Pam Bondi frittered her way at multiple hearings, where she used those hearings basically to roast Democrats on panels than to answer questions from the elected representatives of the American people.
LOL, 10K right now would change my life? Nah. 10K, that's just enough to give you a sense of stillness for a little period of time. That's not enough to change your life, brah. It's not enough to change your life. Might rescue from drowning, but it's not enough to change your life. Atun Shea dropped a new video debunking Matt Walsh's history of slavery. I am a big fan of Atun Shea films, even if he is an eco-doomer. He had a really good video recently that I wanted to show you. I'm not worried about the Second Civil War. Did we watch this, or did I just watch this on my own? I may have watched this on my own.
So, 2025, crazy year. And more people. So, 2025, crazy year. And more people than ever seem convinced that the United States of America is on the brink of some sort of major sectional crisis. The people who usually aren't worried are getting kind of worried, in other words. In Donald Trump, we have an impulsive and deliberately cruel executive who seems totally unconcerned with even the pretense of the rule of law. At his command is a roving death squad of rabid white supremacist police attempting a nationwide sweep of foreigners and dissenters that in practice feels more like ethnic cleansing than immigrant enforcement. And while congressional Democrats have proved utterly useless in countering this terror, Trump's opposition has substantial down-ballot and grassroots support. Count Dooku and his droids are striking from a hidden base. There are heroes on both sides. Evil is everywhere. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty okay about it. And the reason why is that I like to read history. Now, let me be very clear. Every historical circumstance is going to be wildly different, right? And comparing one with another, especially as a form of half-assed divination, will inevitably be problematic. This is the sort of video that could easily age very badly, and I don't claim to have all the answers here. No, wait, actually, I retract that. Yes, I do. But I look at the divide of left versus right in this country, and I don't see civil war. I see something else. Hi, this isn't an ad. Behind me are the ruins of Lindy Boggs Medical Center here in Mid-City, New Orleans.
By the way, richer than ever America.
Years ago, during Hurricane Katrina, this whole neighborhood flooded pretty badly, and a lot of people around here fled to this building for safety. Thankfully, most of them made it out, but it's been abandoned ever since. I've gone by this building almost every day for more than 10 years, and for 10 plus years, it's captured my imagination. And recently, I got to make a movie inside it.
I love him. I love the like theater kids that are also political commentators. This is not me. I don't have this urge. I don't have this feeling. Like, you know, my dream is not to make a film. My dream is to do something worthy of being made into a film.
I'm terrified. Like, I felt this immediate weight walking in here, like just like.
Which is very cringe, by the way. It's okay to say that's cringe. That's very grandiose and cringe. I like this though. I wish I had this bug. I really do like theater kids, but I'm a wallflower for theater kids. I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But I still admire it.
New Orleans feels primed for telling vampire stories.
We're, what, 10 grand, 15 grand over budget, V? Yeah. It was crazy. There was a lot of goo, a lot of bodily fluids. But, you know, we got our shots, we think. You know, moment of truth comes in the editing room. Take 3, Mark. I'm happy to announce that we've just wrapped principal photography on our new film, The Vampires of New Orleans, which is by far the biggest project that we've ever tackled. It's a docudrama which combines historical analysis with balls-to-the-wall gothic horror as we peel back the tourist kitsch and reveal the yawning chasm of societal dysfunction and anxiety beneath. It's our generation's answer to Anne Rice, and I promise you, you have never seen the Southern Gothic done quite like this. We're on track for an October release, and if you're interested in following the production, as always, we've got, behind the scenes posts, stills, and clips available exclusively over on patreon.com/AtunSheFilms. Thanks.
This stream is chill as fuck. This is how you know something's a bot. They come in and they say something like that, which is very generic and like annoying. They say, that was clean, good play, chill as fuck. It's like a very standard bot. LMAO, what a play, bro. That's another example. Somebody's trying to like put Asmongold's bots into my follower list, I guess, to like help cover them up for when they bought Asmongold.
Two big civil wars in America's history, and both started because of similar political mechanisms. The first one, commonly called the Revolution, I guess because the rebels won, was able to pick up steam because many of the people who led the uprising,
some expensive ass bots
against the British
Crown, bots from 2018 and shit,
already had control of many of their regional power structures, town governments, militias, legislative bodies, etc., many of which only needed to be modified slightly to achieve revolutionary purposes. The second Civil War, the one starring Stephen Lang,
Venezuela, that was some mean bush,
was even easier to get going. Because the sectarian divide occurred along state lines, the power structures necessary for the Southern planter class to organize armed resistance to the United States government was prepackaged like a racist frozen dinner. And the first thing to note is that as of right now, as of recording in March 2026...
By the way, they also had identity. In order for war, you need identity. You need institutions and identity. The American left has neither, unfortunately. And you need elite replication and you need recruitment processes. And then you also have to have a logistics base. All of those things are lacking for war. We don't have any of the thing.
We don't have anything even remotely comparable to that in our current moment of political strife. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't happen.
That's a good bot message.
One thing that Zoran Mamdani did recently that I thought was very shrewd was basically betraying his base on the issue of police brutality, cozying up to the NYPD and saying, you know, I've had conversations with our brave and glorious police, and they've shown me the error of my summer of 2020 activist ways. Because the thing is, if Mayor Mamdani has any hope of seriously countering ICE terror in New York City, then he's going to need an army of thugs with guns that's answerable to him. If the Founding Fathers had said, the legacy of the town militia system is problematic and they have no place within our coalition, then General Gage would have burned down Concord to the ground and, you know, that would have been that. But as much as I would love to see a Dark Knight Rises style pitched battle between ICE and NYPD in the streets of Bushwick, I personally don't think that that's very likely. When we look at, the provincials and the regulars in the Revolutionary War, the Union and the Confederates in the Civil War, these different sides that came to blows throughout history, we can very clearly see that their economic interests did not align. And this was particularly true in 1861. I mean, the North and the South during the early Republic didn't just have different interests. They had completely different systems, different mechanisms by which bosses and workers related to their labor and the commodities they produced. The North was a fully industrial society, led by capitalists and powered by wage labor. The South was a gigantic prison farm. Though part of the American Republic, it was effectively still organized like an early modern.
I think that may have been a legitimate chatter who may have been a fallen Asmund fan or just being sarcastic based on laws they look to be EU. Yes, wow, I can't believe the bot chatter is an Asmund chatter.
Colony.
I mean,
most
you can
of the
unban them
value
if you
they
want.
produced went overseas to Great Britain. This is why you started to see tariffs become really appealing to northern industrialists, to encourage the South to contribute more to domestic manufacturing. And they had this very real concern that the southern planter class was not really pulling its weight in the national project. That's not to say that the northern textile industry wasn't deeply complicit in slavery. They absolutely were. It's just that the planter class, was pretty fat and happy with the current arrangement of 3/4 of their cotton going to Liverpool and had little to no incentive to change that up. So the war breaks out, the Union wins, and northern capital invests heavily in southern industry. The South starts to urbanize. Birmingham becomes a big coal mining town. Atlanta becomes a big textile manufacturing town. The southern economy diversifies, and cotton, the bedrock of antebellum slave society,
Oh no, internet. Am I effing?
becomes just one link in the
Oh,
chain.
what's this?
And in part by incorporating the South into their extractive economy, it only takes a few decades. for
I'm getting kielbasa again. For a Persian, I get a lot of kielbasa. Kielbasa is like the Polish sausage, which is the winged hussars. Winged hussars are famous for fighting Muslims. I love Scotch. That's not true at all. That's the only Scottish thing that matters. Do I eat pierogies too? Yes. Oh my God, I love pierogies. See, this is Cubs. I'm a Pennsylvanian, chat. Oh yeah, thank you so much. It was really good. Thank you, Vio. I love pierogies. I love pierogies. In fact, I have pierogies in my freezer right now. Maybe I should make them today for dinner. Anyway, let's keep going watching this.
the United States to surpass Britain as the world's foremost industrial powerhouse. And we have nothing comparable to that situation today. If the Democrats wanted to overthrow Trump, they could not simply call on state militias or militarize some police departments. Because, quite frankly, whether it's ICE or NYPD, different branches of the military, virtually any other viable armed power structure in America today, all these guys serve to protect one economic paradigm. A lot has changed over the last 10 years in American politics, but one thing that hasn't is that Republicans and Democrats are both pretty much all bought and paid for by corporations. Are Republicans and Democrats the same? No. But are their economic interests anywhere near as diametrically opposed as the Union and the Confederacy? Obviously not. So why would they fight? Right? I mean, who would benefit economically from that war? Who would fund that war? Plus, when you get right down to it, I don't think the most important political fissure in America today is right versus left. I think it's top versus bottom. There are all sorts of theories about America's current decline. Feminism, black people in Star Wars movies, Asian people in Star Wars movies, the general concept of the gay. But as compelling as all these theories are, I'm inclined to believe our current troubles really began in 2008. How to explain for those too young to remember? Okay, so there was this thing called the 2008 financial crisis, no cap, and it was pretty lit. Wall Street was giving unaccountability. It was giving the hubris of unchecked power. And chat, they encouraged unprecedented subprime lending to line their skibbity pockets that sent the global economy high-key crashing out. And coming, as it did right when us millennials were entering the workforce, the economic fallout pretty much guaranteed that we would never be able to build wealth and that we were absolutely, positively never going to Hogwarts. And believe it or not, the Wall Street investors who were directly responsible for this catastrophe were not prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Instead, the US government awarded them with $400 billion of our money. This made a lot of people very angry and was widely regarded as a bad move. Pretty much immediately, we started to see populist rumblings in our politics. There's widespread cynicism, failing trust in institutions. On the right, the Tea Party emerged, and on the left, Occupy Wall Street. By 2016, these factions had solidified into two viable anti-establishment presidential campaigns, of course, led by Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. So Sanders gets on TV and tells everybody that unchecked capitalism is this big problem, that billionaires are sucking us dry, and that the working class needs to utilize, the one viable weapon of class warfare that we have, regulatory agencies within the government, to relieve the economic pressure that we're all under. Then Trump gets on TV and tells us that the reason that we're poor, the reason that we're struggling, is not primarily these grand global political and economic forces, but rather deeply interpersonal cultural relations. You're not just poor because corporations moved your job to China, but because your gay daughter doesn't talk to you anymore, because of the diversity initiative at your office, because of plant-based meat at your grocery store, because of fucking Star Wars movies. And of course, this is not new. The right wing has been using the culture war as a tactic to capture the working class for decades. Most of Trump's rhetoric are just reheated talking points that Republicans have been using since the 70s. Particularly rich Republicans. And of course, despite his revolutionary bluster and, general chaotic energy, Trump's policies have pretty consistently aligned with the interests of his class. Slash regulations, promote big business, funnel money away from workers and toward bosses. Trump is, to state what should be painfully obvious, a fake populist. But again, many Republicans have been. What's different about MAGA is that it comes at a point of crisis, of system failure downstream of the 2008 crash, and 9/11 and the Patriot Act and, a lot of stuff. But the unsustainability of our economic system has become impossible to ignore, is the upshot, and something's got to give. It's overly simplistic to say that fascism is merely a capitalist tool of class warfare.
The All-American event at Fort Bragg, North Carolina has been canceled. The event was canceled due to competing requirements per officials. Troops of the 82nd Airborne, based at Fort Bragg, are reportedly deployed to the Middle East at the moment.
Italian fascism in particular was much more complicated than that. But American fascism in the 21st century is just fundamentally about class. Billionaires are using it as a shield to deflect workers' vengeance away from them and toward scapegoats. Immigrants, intellectuals, bureaucrats, LGBTQ people, and so on, while they turn this crisis into an opportunity to dismantle what few obstacles to absolute power still remain in front of them. We will be reeling from the damage that MAGA has done for decades, possibly generations. But as a symptom of class anxiety, it's actually pretty easy to treat, and we wouldn't need to destroy capitalism to do it. Sorry. The way I see it, an excellent way to take the wind out of MAGA's sails would be some extremely mild and eminently achievable wealth redistribution. Just raise taxes on the rich a bit and put that money to public programs that will make people's lives better. And probably the straightest line to making that happen is to hijack the Democratic Party from the left and get people in office who aren't bought and paid for by corporations. And I know that this is going to be old news to many of you, but I promise there are still a lot of people out there who need to hear this. Well, I feel good. I'm glad that this video just solved all of America's problems. Second Civil War successfully averted. Not going to need this anymore. You're welcome, by the way. There's just one minor problem. Critical ecosystems are at risk of collapsing. If current rates of biodiversity loss continue, every critical ecosystem is on a pathway to collapse. The rate of extinction is tens to hundreds of times higher than the average over the past 10 million years. National security risks from ecosystem migration will rise as development begins to reverse. Serious and organized crime will look to exploit pandemic control over scarce resources. It would take resources of economic insecurity become. And you thought this video would be hopeful. I got you. I got you guys. Good. Of course there's going to be a second American Civil War. It probably just won't have anything to do with MAGA. There will be civil wars everywhere in the 21st century because we're currently undergoing Earth's sixth mass extinction, and irrevocable global ecological collapse is already underway. I've been thinking a lot about this report recently called Global Biodiversity Loss, Ecosystem Collapse, and National Security. Yes, that's right, I printed it out like a boomer. Now, this was not written by some hippies in a tree sit, but rather some less fun but more credentialed people in His Majesty's government. And the gist of the report is very bad. Climate change is not coming. It is here, and it's been here. I know this might be hard for folks up in Ohio or whatever to understand, but I live in Louisiana, and I'm telling you, it's here. In fact, the report talks about how increased immigration from Latin America, a major factor in both the rise of MAGA and the increasing influence of Mexican cartels, has been fueled by blight in coffee crops and food insecurity caused by erratic weather patterns, which are, of course, exacerbated by climate change. Ecosystem collapse caused by human industrial activity, particularly in high-income countries, has already destabilized your country without you even knowing that that was the reason. The report says that the average size of monitored wildlife populations has declined by 73% over the past 50 years. That's probably not good. But those are all just animals out in the woods, and who gives a fuck about them, am I right? Well, it turns out that nature is a foundation of national security. Biodiversity loss is putting at risk the ecosystem services on which human societies depend, including water, food, clean air, and critical resources. The impacts will range from crop failures, intensified natural disasters, and infectious disease outbreaks to conflict within and between states, political instability, and erosion of global economic prosperity. Increasingly scarce natural resources will become the focus of greater competition between state and non-state actors, exacerbating existing...
You can literally see it. Donald Trump invading oil-rich countries is a continuation of this exact issue. The fact that he attacked Venezuela and Iran is not a coincidence. They're the largest oil producers that were not American puppets. That's it. It's actually not much more complicated than that.
Conflicts, starting new ones, and threatening global security and prosperity. Lovely, lovely. There's a lot happening in the 2020s that has recent historical precedent, and I think we can glean some comfort from that, right? Some hope that this too shall pass. But anthropogenic climate change is truly unprecedented. Never before has a single species on planet Earth done so much damage and exerted such pressure on the biosphere as a whole in such a short period of time. Climate change won't be the apocalypse, but it will be very, 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 very bad. Possibly only matched in severity by events like the Bronze Age collapse, the Black Death, or the Great Dying of the Americas. When you consider the impacts on non-human life, it is already the biggest event of systematic mass murder in world history. And apart from a small cadre of scientists and activists, nobody's really talking about it or seriously preparing to deal with it. And I suspect this is because the solutions are completely unpalatable to almost everybody.
I would disagree with him. There is one group of leaders that is taking it seriously. It's called the Communist Party of China. That's the only group. And thankfully, they're ignoring all the dumb fuck rest of the world trying to block them from building solar panels and wind farms and nuclear plants. Now, the issue with them is they may not, even they're, as hard as they're working, they may be going too slowly as well. That's the thing about China. Is we can look at them and see the tremendous progress that they're making, but they might be going too slow. They might actually be going too slow. Now they're ahead of their goals. They're 5 years ahead of their goals. Their carbon emissions are declining. They are building nuclear plants. They're building fusion research. They're building wind farms and dams and solar panels. And they're doing everything they can to electrify as much as they can, but they're probably still going too slow. We have to decarbonize a lot of shit. The technology isn't there yet. Production of concrete and steel. That's a big one. Fertilizer. Like we have, and then of course electricity, but that's the low hanging fruit. Getting carbon neutral electricity and electrifying transportation as much as possible. That's the easy shit. The problem is we waited so long to do it that we're running out of excess carbon capacity in the atmosphere.
There's a narrative on the left that climate change is caused by the rich and inflicted on the poor, and that's true. But what people often leave out is that when it comes to climate justice in a global sense, even the poorest American is petit bourgeois. All of us here in the global north are united along class lines in the idea that ecological collapse is totally worth it as long as we get to drive our Ford F-250s and eat our chicken nuggies and get our 2-day shipping. You could behead the billionaires, blow up the data centers, and disband the military tomorrow, and you would still be left with the undeniable fact that the entire foundation of our way of life is predicated on unsustainable ecocide and rampant, ongoing imperialism. The tyranny of the automobile and of
Yes, of course, but that's still fossil fuels. We have the technology. This is where I'm more of a bloomer than him. We have the technology. The thing about renewable energy is it's also anti-imperialist, because when you have solar panels and wind farms, you don't need to go get the oil. The oil becomes worthless. There's so much less demand for it, so it's worth a lot less. That's why we're not doing imperialism for whale oil right now. We're not doing imperialism for whale oil because whale oil isn't useful anymore.
The airplane must end. Animal agriculture and commercial fishing must end completely. No fucking half measures. Consumerism must end. We can do it. We have scalable technologies today that can transport, feed, and supply 7, 8, 9 billion of us equitably without trashing the planet. From sexy technologies like precision fermentation, which is basically growing food from microbes in a brewery tank. I had precision fermented egg whites last week. They're identical to the stuff that comes out of a chicken's ass and have better macros too. To technologies that have been around for a minute, like, I don't know, fucking trains. It wouldn't be easy. It would require a complete transformation of just about every facet of our daily lives.
Can I just say it wouldn't be easy is bullshit? I don't know about you guys, but living life right now is not fucking patty cake. Sitting in my fucking car to commute for 2 hours a day, inhaling diesel's exhaust is not fucking easy, okay? You know what would be easier? If I was able to zip around the city and really high quality public transit that was electric. I didn't have to breathe in the fucking air of polluted highway miles, okay? I'm sorry. It would be a better, and you know what's, it would be work to build that shit, but it would be a hell of a lot better than whatever worthless crap we're building now. Planting trees is hard work, but it's fulfilling.
But we can do it. We could have done it in the late 20th century. We just lack the will. Oh boy. Well, I can't wait to spend my retirement years as a climate refugee cleaning toilets in Ottawa. That's going to be so much fun, and I hope to see you there. Oh, and will the last one to leave America please turn out the lights? How do you turn out these lights? There we go. How's that?
Don't you think that money would be better spent on Israel? Yeah, true. I was being anti-Semitic there for a second. I forgot to consider what the interests of Israel were. How anti-Semitic of me. I forgot to consider the interests of Israel. How anti-Semitic of me. Oh, Jesus. Honestly, we should start. That should be the new meme. Whenever you talk about anything, you should just stop and go, God, I forgot to consider the interests of Israel. How anti-Semitic of me. Well, there you have it, chat. Atouche Films. Very good. What's this? The Trump administration prepares 100% pharmaceutical tariffs on some imported drugs. Oh, by the way, chat, Mediaite is so fucking mad. Hassan Piker is the left's Candace Owens. The press treats him like a rock star. This guy is so fucking mad. Bunch of anti-Trump slop. Anti-Semitism is spreading. Zionism is now a political media trap. Zionism now carries two parallel meanings. So this guy's a Zio, of course. One is a narrow and historical, the belief that Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state. It's very narrow to believe that a political state should be able to ethnically control the population through direct interventions, guys. Guys, it's just the right to believe in ethno-supremacy. Come on, it's narrow. The other is expansive and punishing, used as shorthand for Netanyahu's policies, settlement expansion, and a broader set of moral indictments that have nothing to do with Israel's right to exist. Okay, so your fantasy about what Zionism is different than the reality. Let me ask the AI. Who is Israel's longest serving prime minister? Oh, Benjamin Netanyahu. Guys, don't judge Israel by the most successful politician in Israel's history. That would be anti-Semitic of you. The meanings have long coexisted, but now they're deployed interchangeably at scale. by Israel's defenders. Accept the label and your critics assign you the second definition. Reject it, your opponents hold you to the first. My two sons, 22 and 19, both politically engaged, have independently told me they are seeing more anti-Jewish rhetoric among their peers at any point in their lives. It isn't coming from one direction. On the right, conspiratorial hostility dressed in populist language. On the left, environments where criticism of Netanyahu moves with little friction to something broader, where Zionist stops being a political position and becomes a classification of people, a type, a them. Listen, Germany just wanted to have a German ethno-state where they controlled the religion and the ethnicity. What do you mean? What do you would call it? Why do you have anti-German sentiment is rising? Now you're saying Nazi is a them. Ash's brainworm. Disgusting, of course. Fucking yuck. The United States is now in active military coordination with Israel against Iran. They are happening in a vocabulary that has been deliberately loosened, one where meaning shifts depending on who is speaking and who needs to be accused. This is not confusion. This is a weapon, and it is being used. Look, this fucking AI article is fucking garbage. Can you at least write your articles, Kobe Hall, you lazy fuck? I can just smell the stench of AI writing. Fucking Zionist AI slop. Any comments? Did anyone read this? Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. First comment. Not all anti-Zionists are anti-Semites, but all anti-Semites are anti-Zionists. AI avatar. AI avatar. Cool. Israel should stop mass murdering and stealing land. The Jewish religion has nothing to do with the political movement called Zionism. Man, it is fucking owned. Fucking owned. Oh, this is the guy who's trashed. The reason why I looked that up is he trashed us on today, chat. So I'm going through all his stuff. It's all anti-Trump drivel and then defending Israel. God, this guy publishes a lot of AI slop. He publishes multiple articles a day or one a day. So he's just AI slop spamming this website. What a fucking piece of trash. All right, well, that's going to be it for me today, chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hope you're doing well. Disgusting. We are all fucked. Everybody's dumber than the last. Like, everything's stupider than it was yesterday. Fuck me. Well, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. Thanks for supporting the stream. Appreciate you all. I'm going to send you to the mothership because we talked about him so much today. I feel like we owe him a raid. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Hope you learned something new. Back tomorrow. I guess it's already Friday. Holy shit. Tomorrow is Friday. What a week. All right, everybody. Also, don't forget the Reaction Podcast and my YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe. Listen to the Hassan episode. It's really good. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Solidarity forever. I'll see you soon. Peace out.